Welcome to NSF's Countdown to Launch. The excitement is building. The hype is real for the second attempt of Starship's 13 flight. Just have one question. Where's the rocket?
And here we go.
This is the final go no-go poll for today's operations.
Full reusability of an engine like this is really something that people haven't done before.
We didn't know what we were doing because it was impossible to know what you were doing. We were the only ones who had ever done something like this before.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, ignition.
Max Q.
Separation.
One Raptor vacuum is off.
We lost a Raptor vacuum.
Ship FTS is safe.
Starship is turning for final approach to landing site.
And hello, everybody. It's Countdown to Launch time here at NSF. I'm your host, Roger Smith. We have a really good crew here with us to discuss everything coming up to Flight 13. First off, we have Mr. Max Evans, who is on site at Starbase. Hello, Max. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, everybody. We're in a bit of an interesting time, aren't we? Everything's still saying launch attempt tomorrow, including TFRs, notices, everything on the regulatory side. Apart from there being a rocket on the pad. I mean, maybe Starship got some new camo and they just rolled it out with some new stealth technology that we're not aware of. I'm not sure. But certainly uncertain of where we are.
And also joining us today is Alex. Hello, Alex. How are you doing? And are you keeping one eye on the TV for a certain sporting event?
Well, Roger, kind of, maybe, we'll see. You may hear some loud noises in my background because I have a watching party outside here for the World Cup finals. But yeah, look, we had I think they just yelled again. We're getting ready for launch. We're counting down to launch here for the other big event, hopefully of next week with that Starship flight. But as you mentioned, there's no vehicles out there. So we'll definitely talk about that on today's show.
And so producing our show today is Mr. Jay Keegan. Jay's pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and all that great stuff to hopefully make the three of us look good. So, Alex, we had a launch attempt on Thursday. They got to the point, we saw some ignitions, some engines, then it stopped. Can you recap us, go from there? Where are we at? Where's the rocket? What's going to be happening next? Do we have any road closures coming up?
Yeah, so that is a great question. I'm going to start back with the launch attempt on Thursday. So we counted down. We had a brief hold, sort of at T-minus 60 seconds now. They moved that from T-minus 40 up to T-minus 60 seconds, but it was a brief hold. We've seen this in the past. They sometimes, the automated systems sometimes need a bit more time. So they hold the count and then it resume automatically as well. And then we went to the deluge. We got to engine ignition and then abort. We didn't get anything. The only thing that we know for sure is that some engines did not ignite. We could see at least 4 of them on the user interface, on the graphics from SpaceX on their webcast, but no other information other than that they had to roll them back and at least change at least 2 of those, at least from what Elon said. Now, apart from that, we saw the vehicles rolling back, both the ship and the booster rolling back to the production site. The ship is in Mega Bay 2 in the center work stand. The booster is on the Mega Bay 1 for the boosters as well. And so that work is probably already ongoing. It's been going on for a while because those rolled back on Friday. Now, the big question, as you mentioned, is those rollout closures for the vehicles to go back to the pad. You can see there, it's a very empty place right now. There's no vehicles rolling down the pad or anything like that. For the launch attempt on Thursday around this time of the day, we started seeing Ship 40 peeking out of the Mega Bay 2 to get ready for a rollout to the pad and full stack later in the day. But just today here, for a supposed launch attempt tomorrow, we don't have that. We don't have even a beach closure for the launch because they need to close the beach. And so that is not there in place either. What we do have is things like temporary flight restrictions and notice to mariners and notice to airmen and all the different notices. They are there, but it's always the question of how long are they going to be there? does SpaceX have time to roll these vehicles out and then launch tomorrow? And besides of that, if they do not have any time, if they want to do something else, what else could they be doing that it's taking them longer? And so there's a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, and so we're probably going to be debating here for a little while what's going on. Maybe we get answers while we are here on Countdown to Launch. Who knows?
That sure would be nice to start seeing some of those road closures and stuff. So, Max, we got Metal Manatee is asking, to your knowledge, is there anything they can do? What kind of troubleshooting can they do? I know they're probably doing engine swap, but is there anything else they can be trying to figure out as far as what happened last Thursday?
Well, one of the benefits of being inside of Mega Bay 1 and having the booster is you have full access to every single engine on the booster itself. Whereas, unlike one of the, I don't want to call it a shortfall because this was an intentional design, but one of the problems, not problem, one of the things about Pad 2 is that unlike Pad 1, you don't have a service platform that can come up to the aft end of the booster to access any of the engines or replace them if you need to. To look at the engines at all, you have to take the booster off of the stand and roll it all the way back to Mega Bay 1. They even on the transport stand, they have a very limited access to what they can see and do. They cannot replace an engine on the work stand. That all has to be done back in Mega Bay 1. So one of the key advantages is you're hands-on with all of the hardware. You can see everything super up close to try and get a better diagnostic of what happened, especially with those, what we presume to be 4 Raptors, maybe more. But as far as specific testing, that really depends on what the problem was. We don't know if it was with the igniters, if it was something upwards in the plumbing, whether it was the turbopumps. But the problem was obviously severe enough to where that warranted an immediate swap of at least 2 engines. So unsure exactly what that could have led up to. Maybe there was a lack of pressure building up in the pre-burners or something of the sorts, or maybe there was an issue with one of the igniters, which are different on Raptor 3 than Raptor 2 and are still somewhat of a novel thing for SpaceX to get their hands around. But they can do a lot more in Mega Bay 1 than they can at the pad. I think that's the larger safe assumption there. Obviously, it was picked. Both the booster and the ship were destacked and rolled back very quickly after the launch. I think it was still. I think ship rolled back at around 4 a.m. yesterday. Is that yesterday? Friday morning. And then also booster followed in the late morning afterwards as well. So not very long. SpaceX wanted to get both of those vehicles back to the production site as quick as possible to try and diagnose and fix whatever needs fixing, especially on the booster side. But we don't really have any info beyond Elon saying that at least 2 engines had to be swapped. And on the graphic, 4 didn't start. One curious thing that I did notice, though, was that Booster 21 is currently at Massey's for its cryogenic proof test campaign. And usually we're used to seeing them fill both methane and oxygen tanks up all the way, even on the first attempt. They didn't do that yesterday. So I wonder if that partial cryo was due to them either finding something wrong on Booster 21 itself, and then obviously them delaying a full load test down the line, maybe here in a few days, or if that was planned. If it wasn't planned and they found something wrong, maybe there's some correlation there between Booster 21 and Booster 20, and since Booster 20 is back in Mega Bay 1 right now, that gives them a chance to, I guess, readdress or to find assurance or fix whatever problems they found on Booster 21 on Booster 20 to ensure that there are no similar issues to be had. So, but again, we're short on specifics. We are short on information that I so dearly wish we had at this point, considering we're now 27 hours and change before, 27 hours and change, I think, before launch. So yeah, lots coming up, lots of uncertainty. But we certainly need answers because the clock is still ticking.
Yeah, I'm not saying the SpaceX can't, because we've seen them pull rabbits out of their hat, but
yes,
boy, it's kind of looking iffy, at least from my perspective. Alex, kind of on that same note, okay, so we're getting Booster 20, is getting some engine swaps, and they're going to roll it back out to the pad eventually. Do you think they'll do any booster-specific testing? Would they need to do a cryo? Static fire, is that even something they would consider, or do you think they're good to go once the engines are swapped?
That's definitely the $1 million question here, because it's like, okay, you're gonna fix some of the issues by changing some of these engines, at least two, per what Elon said on X the other day. But then it's the main question of, are you gonna fly those without even testing, because sometimes it's not the engines themselves that need to be tested. Those get tested by themselves at McGregor, right? But there's a whole different ocean to cross when you put those engines on a vehicle and then you have to fire those engines, because one thing is on the test stand on controlled flows and control parameters and all this stuff, but a whole nother thing is when it's on a booster or on a ship and you got to go with all of that with the plumbing and everything. It needs to all come together. There are engine controllers, there's a booster controller as well. You have to combine 33 engines on the booster, 6 of them on the ship. So at the end of the day, it's much more complicated than just say, let's just test the engine by itself. And so it's a $1 million question, because as we saw like a few weeks ago, we can see here that booster static fire test the other day. I think it was on the 10th, if I'm not mistaken, when it happened, and that one went seemingly well. They fired all of 33 engines for more than 20 seconds. And so it's like, how do you go from having this very successful test to then 4 engines not igniting? And most of the time, it usually ends up being some kind of vehicle side of things, maybe just the engines themselves, something happened in between when they went back to the Mega Bay and then went out again for the launch attempt. There are just so many aspects to all of this that it's very hard to really put a very simple answer to such a complicated question. It's one of those things that we usually say that it's rocket science, right? But exactly, it's called rocket science for a reason. And so, there's also the fact that these Raptors, a lot of people have asked, well, why are they so finicky? Why are they not lighting up and everything? They're having problems. Didn't they solve all of those with Raptor 2? And things like that. But Raptor 2 was igniting in a different way. They have a different ignition system on Raptor 3, which is much more simpler, but it also means there are much more complicated dynamics going on there. And so it is not an easy way to light up the engines, but still quite a simple and sort of, almost hardware-free way. These acoustic igniters that they use now instead of the torch igniters that they used in the previous 2 versions. So all of this to say, we have no idea what they're going to be doing, but I wouldn't be surprised if they actually went out there and at least tested the igniters. But for that, they need to close the beach. They need to load the booster, at least with a little bit of propellant, because they need some propellant to do that. That's the other thing as well with the new igniters, that they don't work like the oldest one. The older ones could basically work off without using any propellant. These use the propellant itself to be able to ignite the engine. And so they need to load the booster. And so that means closing the beach and the pad to be able to do igniter testing, unlike the previous versions.
And what's most, I think, what I think is the most interesting about this is that SpaceX at some point is going to have to rapidly speed up their processes of getting vehicles out to the pad, tested, and fly, or just not testing at all and just fly it. We saw that we saw that of sorts when Booster 20 rolled out for its static fire, because between rollout and static fire was less than 1 day. There was no cryo test, there was no igniter test. They went straight to a 33 engine static fire. Whereas in this case, if we were to follow the same timeline for vehicle rollout and stacking, if they were still targeting tomorrow, the booster would have had to have rolled out and be put on the pad last night, and the ship would be rolling out this afternoon. And obviously, there's nothing posted in terms of beach closures or road closures for transport. So big question marks. And now that isn't to say SpaceX could pull a miracle and they could roll both out at the same time, put booster on the stand, stack ship on top of it in a matter of like maybe 5 or 6 hours for both. But there's certainly a lot of conflicting information as to what they can and can't do, both on the regulatory side and from what we can see from the vehicle standpoint or at on site, because there actually isn't much to see right now in terms of vehicles, because again, booster is in Mega Bay 1 and ship is in Mega Bay 2, and we don't really have views inside unless those doors are wide open, and even then our views are now pretty limited.
I I would want to mention another thing because I'm going into next spaceflight here. The previous Electron launch attempt also had to abort at T0 when the engines ignited, and it still hasn't launched. This is to say, even a simple engine like the Rutherford engine, which is electric pump fed and all that stuff, like it's a very simple engine, and they still had an issue at engine ignition. Like we don't know, right? There are other rockets out there with way more heritage, way more simpler hardware, and they still get these sort of things. It's actually quite a
Delta
miracle, if you want to call it. Haha, yeah. Delta IV Heavy. The shuttle got a few of these as well. The run-on set launch sequencer aborts.
It did.
But it's just to put in perspective, like it's somewhat of a miracle that Starship hasn't done this until the 13th flight. That it hasn't happened on the previous flights. Flight 1 was very, very close because it got 3 engines off at ignition. But then every other launch pretty much got all 33 engines off the pan. I think except Flight 4, where one of the outer engines sort of went out like 10 seconds after liftoff, but it was already lifting off, so it didn't count. But yeah, like that's sort of the whole thing, right? That they've been very lucky to, ever since Flight 1, having been able to ignite all 33 engines pretty much on the pan and being able to lift off. So it's a fluke, I will say. It's not the rule that we've been living with.
And one thing I've been kind of curious about is for versions 1 and 2 on the booster, they had the ability to get off the pad even if 3 engines did not ignite. In this case, if the data or the visual on the overlay during their live stream is to be believed, 4 did not ignite. Now I wonder if they still had that same contingency. If 3 don't light, they can still get off the pad and get the vehicle clear and have the booster just burn a bit longer to compensate for the lost thrust. But 4 being out would obviously violate that old rule and that rule now, if it's even still in place, because Raptor 3 has a lot more thrust than Raptor 1 and Raptor 2. And is a lot more it's a lot more complex, and it's simpler in many ways. Simpler in appearance, a lot more sophisticated, I guess, in its design and the way it works. Especially with the igniter, it's a whole different engine essentially. But we don't really have any insight into that unless either Shanna Diaz or Kiko or Elon said something on X or on social media in general. But nothing yet.
So Max, following up on that, we got a new pad essentially. It's been used once for a flight. We've had a version 3 vehicle. It's used once for a flight. Now we're in the second one. I'm thinking we got some learning curves. So would you speculate that since we're so early in the version 3 and this pad, is the launch criteria going to be a bit tighter than, say, if we go down to, let's say we're getting to flight 16, that they would have a looser criteria for launch?
I mean, version 3 is still a relatively new vehicle for SpaceX. I mean, this is only their second time having a full stack with a flight-ready booster and ship. Second time using the pad for flight operations, because pad operations are much different for a wet dress or even just a booster static fire, because obviously you're missing the entire ship element of the stack. They are still learning how everything works together, how everything behaves together, both with a vehicle and without a vehicle. Also with the tank farm, the chopsticks, the QDs, the deluge, timing, and pressures, all of that, they are still getting dialed in, and they can only learn that by launching Starship. As kind of, I can't remember his name, in the documentary was saying, there's no real way to simulate Starship without Starship. And the only way you can gain experience as to how to efficiently use your pad is to fly and to use your flight vehicle, right? So I feel like they're still it's a brand new system compared to Pad 1. They are still making sure everything works the way they want it to and fine-tuning it. So I would not be surprised if going forward, for probably the next at least 2 flights, they find some bugs that they want to work out. But it's an entirely new design that is optimized for rapid reuse. So they can't spend too much time debugging the system if there are any, right? So the idea is to get it all dialed in pretty quickly. And this is only their second time flying from this pad and with a version 3 vehicle as a whole. So I would not be surprised if they still have some pad hiccups. I mean, that's just a part of spaceflight. It happens. We've seen it on rockets that are very. We've seen it on launch vehicles that are veterans and also pads that are brand new, right? So I would not be surprised, but at some point in time, like they're going to have to get this dialed in for a rapid flight cadence. But that's in due time.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, we've seen it with Falcon 9. It had some early growing pains with that. But
Yes,
look what
it
it's
did.
doing now. Hundreds of launches
Yes,
a
it
year.
did.
So again, this literally is rocket science. It's not easy stuff. We got some really smart people in all the industries that are working on this thing. It's not necessarily an easy nut to crack.
No.
But they're good. They are good at this. I mean, they go from blowing up Ship 36 to making MacGyvering a static fire stand in OLM-1. They figure this stuff
Yep.
out. This is how they learn. Real quickly, if I may, here, I'm going to go up in here and thank some people. We got Snot Garden 4423 gifting 5 Red Team memberships. I hope those of you that got it will enjoy that. We got some really cool behind the scenes stuff. One of the nice things about, or really interesting things, was on the past flight, you get a behind the scenes. You get to see Kevin Michael Reed's inner sanctum, which is wow. And he
Is cathedral.
Yeah,
That's when the live stream doesn't go public. What? No, hang on. Delete
Kevin's
that.
not
Delete
here.
that.
It's okay.
that was one of my real shockers when I started helping you all in live streams and things like that. Finding out all that goes on a production. I mean, I have no idea how that does. I watch a TV and I see a football game and there's this truck with all these screens, and it all happens. And just kudos to the whole production team. They are wizards when it comes to this type of stuff. All right, we got Austin Skirvin saying, "Can countdown to launch while World Cup finals on. SpongeBob meme intensifies. Hope IFT 13 goes soon."
Yes. Agreed on that front.
Yeah, I miss the
Looking
Open
at both
Championship.
screens.
Yeah, I miss the Open Championship. I gotta go watch some replays of that because I'm a golfer. Okay, we got Snot Garden again. Seriously, Alex, love you too much to pull you out of the watch party. So yeah,
It's
Alex,
just out there in my neighborhood. I don't even know half of the people there, so it's okay.
I'm into a watch party since I couldn't be down there for Flight 13. I had a watch party at my house. We had a bunch of people over waiting for it, all excited, and then didn't go. So I started putting replays of Flight 5 on. I says, well, this is what it would have looked like. We got RC Horseman, Rick. Hey, how you doing, my friend?
Hey.
Thanks for 10 Red Team memberships. Again, you get some cool stuff back there. I mentioned the behind-the-scenes stuff. There's special videos that comes out, some members only, and you tend to get a little heads up where new stuff comes out to the shop. So you get some stuff on there. And Justin Smith, another Pad Rat, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate all the support. And Turtle Sanctuary. So right now you're saying 0-0. Tend to agree with that at this moment. So I don't know if you guys are going to keep us up on the score in the match, but we're all for it. And just a reminder, folks, tag us at NSF or at NASASpaceflight.com or .com. But you don't need that part in there. But anyway, your questions come in here. We got a lot of time here to kill. We got lots of stuff to talk about, and we'd love to answer your questions here. So, Alex, I'm sorry, Max, is going to go to you. I saw a couple of questions here, kind of a little bit in your ballpark. First, it was replacement parts. So we've seen in the SpaceX video, and we've seen like an actuator replaced here at Pad 2. I think the cool thing is what they're referring to, what they have now with multiple pads, they can rob parts from them. As far as you got a bearing that's gone out, you got 39A, you got the stop stick and everything like that is using the same bearings and stuff. They don't need it right now. They go in. It's kind of like, I don't know, I think like replacing Caterpillar tractor parts almost. That you go in, you need a part, you pull it off, you get it on a truck, you get it there, and replace it. So kind of refresh everybody. We got a lot of stuff going on in Florida. You're down there all the time covering this. We got 39A, if you could bring us up to that. And then also very curious, what's going on 37A? How are we doing on that tower? And we've got 2 towers going in there. Is that correct?
I think technically 4 towers at 37, but 2 launch towers. So at 37, there's going to be 2 launch towers and 2 catch towers, as far as we are aware with this current targeted setup. But 39 is coming along very well. I shouldn't say we. I kind of expect it to be ready to receive a vehicle probably in late September, early October timeframe ish, at least for vehicle testing. But it's not that far away now. I think the major milestones that we have to see or a full deluge system test along with the top deck, and also full motion with the chopsticks, because we haven't seen full motion yet. We've seen them move in small bits, but we haven't seen them move in their entirety as much as they can in the range that a SpaceX desires. So Pad A is coming along very well, but 37 is also coming along rapidly, because just this morning, SpaceX stacked the 8th tower segment for the first launch tower at 37. And now, as you can see from this camera, we can finally see it from our cameras at the Kennedy Space Center press site. So
it looks like the
that's
crane
how
is
big
already
these towers.
off.
Yeah, crane is off. That was put on, I believe, this morning or earlier this afternoon. I think Julia posted an update on X or somewhere.
Yeah.
Not long after that happened. But I think there is one more module to go, and then the roof for the tower. So this tower is coming along very well. Mind you, they have one more launch tower to build after this for its second pad, plus the actual bespoke catch tower for that to be used. But this pad's coming along very, very well. Both are. And we hopefully 39 will be ready to support flight by November, December timeframe, which I can see being possible pending how operations go with Flight 13 and 14. Because I think that would put Flight 15 on the docket to be the first one from Florida, from Pad A. As you can see, the update here from Julia right after the eighth tower segment was lifted and stacked this morning. Golly, the skyline over there is changing rapidly. My mind is still, I'm so used to driving down Highway 528 toward Port Canaveral and looking over to all the launch pads, because when you're heading east down 528, once you're over the Banana River, you can see all the pads, 36, 37, 40, 41, and 39 way out there. Same with the VAB. But I'm so used to seeing the Delta 4 infrastructure there. I mean, the MST, the Mobile Service Tower, and the Lightning Towers as well. But obviously, those have long since departed, and they are now well into Starship building operations there. But that's weird. That's going to be so weird to see. And hopefully, they're building more of those as well at other pads down the line. Maybe pad 49 becomes a thing, which would be north of pad 39B. The jury's still out on that one, whether or not they will actually get approval to build that. But that is why Space Launch Complex 37 is so important, to allow them more than one available launch complex once all is said and built and done. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, one thing I go back to is at Flight 4. We were down there, and as you're going down Highway 4, you looked off to the left, and the tower sections were at the port of Brownsville. They were just sitting there, and then they rolled down the road and they did the stacking. I think it took a couple months for them to get stacked. So again, that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. You get the steel up, and that's great. But then it took.
Yep.
I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think by the time Pad 2 was, I would quote unquote, operational, so it could support a vehicle, was about 20 to 22 months. Am I remembering that ballpark correctly? I guess the point I'm trying to make is, now they built 39. They're working on 37, both towers there. My hope is this is a learning curve thing, that they're going to get those towers down. I mean, all the plumbing in there that they had to figure out in Tower 2. I mean, you look at that plumbing, it's just amazing. I don't know how the pipe fitters figured all that out, how to get that plumbing inside there, but they did. So they got a pattern. Do you think it'd be reasonable they could cut that total build time down to, say, 18 months? Would that be even possible?
I mean, if they have the hardware built and ready, potentially. But as of our last flyover at Roberts Road, we didn't see any other tower segments being built there. Maybe they're being built in a new location that's more local to Pad 37. We just haven't seen it. But we don't see any. We haven't seen any more tower segments for Pad 37 yet beyond what's already there. So maybe there's a way to expedite that. Maybe they are building more in a location that we just can't see. But SpaceX loves pulling miracles out of their hats, and they love moving fast. So I would not put it past them to find a way of sorts.
To be clear, for the 37 pad, the 37B pad, that's only currently in foundation mode. They have not even started the trench or anything like that. Like, they are very much like 37A was about a year ago. So it might be a while until they start stacking any towers. That one is probably going to be like a 2028 sort of deal. But yeah.
Okay, and I want to thank Steelers fan. I'm sorry I didn't give you a shout out there. Thank you. That was an excellent question. Great discussion, guys. I really appreciate it. Let's see, I had something else here. Alex, I'm going to run this one by you. This is from NCC 1017. I can't remember what that ship is. Anyway, what's the testing? How are they going to test? They don't have a Massey's in Florida. How are these vehicles going to get tested?
At Massey's. They don't have a Massey's at Florida, but they do have at Starbase. And so they just test it out there and then roll it out to Florida on You'll Thank Me Later. Or maybe just read the instructions. We'll see which one takes what vehicles. But yeah, I mean, they don't have a Massey's in Florida, but they do have it at Starbase. So that's the answer. Now for the booster, I can imagine that they can just static fire it on the pad, but for a cryo, of course, they have to do it at Massey's. That's where they have their own cryogenic proof testing hardware and everything like that. Just like the thrust simulator stand with 33 pushers and things like that. Actually, 13 of them, not 33, because the other 20 don't get that. But anyways, I'm digressing here. The point that I'm trying to make is that it's just as simple as just test them at Massey's. It's the test site for them, just like McGregor is for Falcon operations. You test there your Falcon 9 second stages. The first time that Falcon 9 first stages get tested, they get tested at McGregor. And trust me, they go through way worse times than probably that barge will go in that week time going through the Gulf. Because trust me, you don't want to go on Texas roads or Florida roads. Boosters for Falcons and second stages as well, those go through those. So just saying, if you can go through Texas roads and Florida roads, you can probably go through the Gulf on a barge. That's my take.
Yeah,
Although Falcon was designed for road transport, Starship and Super Heavy were not.
Well, they are now because they changed the version, and also now they're planning on horizontal transport. Like maybe they were not at the beginning, but they are now, or they have to. Either way, like. There's no other way for them because there's no other place. And if they really want to fly like in a few months, 2 flights maybe from now, that's really how they're going to have to take it. Test it at Massey's and roll it out to Florida via Varge. And so that's my take on that. Maybe in the far future, they will be able to have a dedicated test site in Florida. There's not a lot of room though for that. But that's a far future thing. We have not seen anywhere across the Space Coast where they might be building such a thing. So that's basically how it's going to go, at least in the near term.
Yeah, and see these vehicles horizontal. I mean, Max, you can attest to it being down there. These things are big, and to quote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, no, they're bigger than that. Seeing them vertical, it's going to knock my socks. When you guys are down there taking photographs of this thing horizontal, I think that's just going to be out of this world.
Well, I think that they're going to roll the vehicles vertical out to the Port of Brownsville before breaking them over. So I don't think we'll see them horizontal by the Star Factory because that would take up a lot more road space and be a lot bigger of a headache to transport. But I'm pretty sure. I mean, Kiko Donchev himself confirmed on X when posting about Florida's own Gigabay that they were going to use Florida's Gigabay to break the vehicles back over to their vertical positions once they have been transported from Starbase to Florida. So we will have a chance to see them horizontal on the road in Florida, but not in Starbase. But that's still going to be a drastic departure from what we are used to, even when it comes to seeing New Glenn first stages being transported, because those are also quite sizable in terms of width and length. What?
Does this mean that once they start building them at the Gigabay at Starbase, we're going to see the same, but at Starbase? Laying them down horizontally in the Gigabay and then going down the road horizontally? Because you said maybe not at Starbase, maybe in Florida. But, I mean,
well,
maybe that's a thing.
I think I don't think so, and let me tell you why. I think that was only for getting it off the barge. It's already horizontal. Just roll it over to where roll it over to Roberts Road, and obviously then it's a lot more convenient and out of everyone else's way to break it over vertical. I don't think they have a reason to transport it horizontal otherwise, unless they are taking it off of a barge. So maybe that ages poorly. I don't know.
But it's where they have their big crane. In the future, they'll have the Gigabay crane to be able to lay it horizontal and then vertical again. Which is why I'm saying this. Like, the other option is to have like massive cranes at port that do that.
Mm-hmm.
that's the whole reason why in Florida they're using the Gigabay one so that they don't have to do it
Well, yeah,
anywhere else.
that's what I mean. Like we'll see it horizontal on KSD roads going over to Roberts Road from the barge.
But on Starbase not,
Why would they?
because again, Gigabay crane can do that then. Once the
yeah.
Gigabay is further along and it's installed, then they can do that and not need a big crane out there, I don't know, at port or anything like that. That's what I'm trying
But
to
if
say.
Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, but I don't know why they would need to break them horizontal in Starbase for Starbase ops.
Not for Starbase ops, I mean for making them go to port and then from port out to Florida.
Well, they'll roll them vertical to port and then break them over in port and then load them onto the barge.
But that's the point that I'm trying to make. Then you need big cranes at port. Do they have those? Would they need those if they have the Gigabit crane instead? See what I'm trying to say?
There's no shortage of cranes at Brownsville, so we can go down there.
No.
That brings me, again...
they have also cranes at Cape Canaveral, and yet they're going to be doing this at the Gigabay. So
yeah,
that's why I'm bringing up this point. Like, I'm not just making anything out of the blue that, should they also do this at Starbase as well? That was my main question, not really anything else.
Yeah, definitely be interested to, however they're going to do this. I guess, and Alex, maybe I want to run this by you. I'm going to belabor this point. How do they break it over? How do they go from vertical to horizontal? Now, we saw with the shuttle, they'd roll it into the VAB horizontally. They had this whole bracket that fit over the fuselage of the shuttle, and they had a dual crane lift with the overhead crane. They had a rear one for stability on that. Do you think they need a special jig for that? I know we got hard points up by the grid fins. Where I would imagine they have to have something on the aft end to connect to. I just appreciate any insight you have on how they're actually going to get the thing going from vertical to horizontal and the other way around.
It's likely that they may use part of the hold down systems on the aft end. On the forward end, it seems like it's either so the lifts for boosters are done actually from the interstage, from the hot staging ring actually. The grid fin thing was a thing of like version 2 and version 1, like the previous versions. They no longer do that. I assume maybe they could do it if they wanted to, but it will be a very weird place for them to lift from. However, it seems like they're going to be putting like inserts on where the two grid fins where the lift points are for this kind of movements. Like instead of having the real grid fins, it might actually wear in quotes like some kind of inserts. We've seen some of those both at Starbase and also in Florida as well. We've seen some of those already at Roberts Road for those operations. So maybe that's how they do it. It's still up in the air because we've seen some of the parts, but sometimes it's a big puzzle to be able to put it all together, and it might not fit 100%. And so you have to make up some other pieces of equipment that might still be, left to observe and see around any of these places. And so that's basically why. But it seems like it might use maybe the aft end, some of those hold down locations for the booster, and maybe even the inserts for the grid fins on the forward end. We'll see if that's the case. That's basically more or less what we've seen so far. Maybe it's not. We'll just figure it out. We'll see it with our own eyes when it happens. Very
good. Thank you, Alex. Got one here from, and I can maybe tackle the first part of this one, is Hedoclone. Does NSF or does SpaceX need a road delay to roll boosting ship? Yeah, most definitely do. And that's the City of Starbase site will post those. They don't need a beach closure or anything like that just for rolling, but every time and they have to get something down that road, they need to at least alert people because it still is a public road. And Max, I don't know if you know this one. This is from 80 kbm. Rules regarding closures and beach closures. Let's start with maybe the beach closures. Do they have to give is there a certain time frame in advance notice they have to give the county for beach closures, or can they just say a time and get approval from the local authorities to do that?
I don't know. I want to say that there's a buffer period of maybe 4 hours, but I'm not sure how actually correct that is. I'm not 100% certain. But I do know that the road closure has to be posted by the time the vehicle needs to roll out onto the road, obviously. But we have seen them roll or begin to roll before the road closure either starts or is posted, depending on what the scenario is. But considering this is a weekend, obviously Boca Chica Beach is a very busy beach, especially on weekends. I cannot imagine them doing something of the sort when there's tons of people around and otherwise with no road closure and no heads up would be a major headache for transport and getting people out of the way. But a decent enough notice at least gives those who are around time to get out of the area and create a less stressful environment for those involved in moving the hardware. So, but I don't know if there is a required time frame for them to post ahead of time in relative to the road delay starting.
Yeah, as far as we've seen, at least since Starbase has become incorporated, the city itself has jurisdiction over when they do the delays. They do coordinate with the county for that. Like you say, it is public beach. And it's, I think we talked about this, maybe I talk about this in infinitum. This is such a cool place to be. Oh my God. You get down there, you're on a public road. If you're fortunate enough to be on a rollout and any booster or whatever, and you're literally 10 feet from the thing rolling by you. You got to pull your toes back from the road so you don't get crushed by an SPMT. They roll down the road. You're looking up. You can barely take it in. And you're surrounded by, I don't know, Max, correct me. There's usually a couple hundred people out there. There's dogs. There's kids. There's people in lawn chairs drinking adult beverages watching this thing. It's just a party with rockets. And then you watch it go by. There's people all up and down the road. If you want, pull out your car once it's passed, keep a safe distance, and you can be in the party. You can follow the thing down the road. And then people are there. They're sitting there. You be respectful. The security people are professional, but they are very nice. If you're in the way, your car's in the way, they will politely ask you to move. And don't be a numpty. You do it. And you're meeting people from all over the world, the same passion that we all have for spaceflight, watching this thing. And invariably, you got this biggest rocket in the world running down the road. And I will guarantee you, and Max, you'll back me up on this, there'll be 2 pickup trucks with fishing poles waiting for this thing to get out of the way so they can get down to the beach and start fishing.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's depending on the time of day. Like, it's an absolute circus as to when these vehicles roll in terms of traffic being backed up.
There's a dude
it.
on the trike. I got the dude on the trike. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. But that's what makes Starbase so remarkable, is that there's literally not a single other place on the planet where you can do this. I mean, we'll have some. I guess we'll have some views like this from Kennedy once they begin vehicle rolls, but that's not like the general populace can go to the press site and just wait for a booster. They can't do that. And we are in a very privileged position to be able to do that and to cover it with the way we do. But yet there's even just yesterday or the day before. Was it yesterday when the booster rolled back? Day before. Time is a blur. Even then, like, I was down over by the production site, and the Cameron County Sheriff, I was on the south side of Highway 4 in the gravel, not too far off the road, but I wasn't crazy far. The Cameron County Sheriff asked those who were on the gravel side politely to cross the road to create some more distance from the rocket. Obviously, they don't want anyone really super close to it, nor following it directly or walking with it. I think that's just the nature of it, obviously being a flight vehicle. That also with the FTS installed, or the flight termination system with active explosives on board, they'd rather not have anyone super duper close to it if they can help it. But yeah, you can park up your car off the side of Highway 4 there, just like we're seeing here, off the side of the road, preferably on the northern side here, closer to the camera, and watch some real spaceflight hardware, the largest spaceflight hardware in the world, roll out and back from the pad. Like, there's no other place in the world where you can do this.
Yeah, it's such a unique environment and place to go. And even if there's not a vehicle out on the pad, it's worth your trip to get there. If you have the fortune to get down there, it'd be great.
100%.
Alex, I'm going to maybe have you put your Wright Caton hat on there. They're hearing possibly, let me find that question here, about a tropical depression coming up out there. Are you aware of anything about that, or I am not?
Yeah, so there's right now the one of the tropical depressions. I'm actually pulling up the National Hurricane Center website, which is sort of weird. It's only tropical depression 2 right now. We are, I think, 2 months into hurricane season, and it's only the second one. But yeah, it's forecast right now to go at least through the Louisiana area, sort of Alabama and things like that, and it might affect the downrange weather, but it's only until Friday, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking it up like literally right now. That sort of external, sort of like the extended forecast for the storm, and it seems like it might just be for the next few days out there in Louisiana, so it may not impact in the short term. But it all comes down to how far this flight actually goes down in the schedule. If it
Yep.
doesn't go tomorrow, right? If it is not tomorrow, how much is it delaying? Is it delaying maybe to Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday? We don't know. This is you can probably change the title of the show to like, there's no vehicles on the pad. We don't know when this thing is launching, right? Because there's no guarantee that they can even have the time to do such a thing. I know multiple people have been asking about that. We've been wondering that ourselves. It will be very, very tight right now as we are if they were to roll out literally right now. And
Yeah.
they're definitely not rolling out right now. Those vehicles are
No.
still on the mega base. Their transport stands are still out there. They are not into any of the base as far as I know. So it takes a while. Like, these procedures take a little bit, even though they make them faster and faster. They're still not in the, like, there's a certain physical limit, folks. Like, it's not like a minute to get to the pad, right? It's still in the order of like more than half an hour to get to the pad, and another half an hour just to prepare them for putting them on the transport stands and things like that. So when you take into account like what is the lowest time that they could take to be able to do this, even with that, it's very tight. So yeah, I'm trying to be a little bit realistic here and add a bit more on top of the absolute minimum that I can think of. And yeah, it I don't know. I'm not too positive about a launch tomorrow, but yeah, I wouldn't say that storm will be quite a big impact, given that it might not come close until later down in the week. So let's center first on what may happen the next 2 or 3 days, and then we'll see if the storm actually affects the launch forecast.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And since we got maybe a little bit of time before Flight 13, and if you're not in the middle of watching a certain football game, and hey, I'm an American, I
It's
said
in the
football.
halftime. It's okay.
All right. You may want to go visit our store. We got a great shop out there. We got Lindsay and the crew is out there. We got our patches coming in. We got the whole Flight 13 collection. We got patches. We got mugs. We got Dan and his daughter. They personally etch these things, hammer and chisel. I know Dan's out there, doing that and etching glass, by himself. Some really cool stuff there. We got pins like these, if you can see them, for the pin collection. So we got those going on. Additional pins, shirts up the yang yang. Those the sun shirts. And those are incredible. If you haven't got one of those, just it's for the shirt itself is just beautiful on there. So check it out. We're working on the shipping. I think the patches are delayed a little bit, but we'll get them out there. And if ever you're shopping at the NSF store and you have any kind of issue, go onto the store. There's a contact link in there and do that. The store is always monitoring those things, and they will do their very best to get that rectified for y'all. So check it out. Good stuff out there, and hopefully we'll get a flight soon. Okay, let's head back
Sure
to.
hope so.
You can see all the details there.
Mhm.
The frost, the grit fins, and everything. The
Yeah,
engines.
Yeah,
This is one of the more rad, I think, patch designs we've had I think, ever.
Yeah, a lot of work goes into this. It's just not a render, but the details and what you're actually seeing. They try to make it as realistic as possible for these patches. Again, they're made. The quality of the patches is just outstanding. I think they were made by the same ones that do NASA's. They did. It wasn't just find the cheapest. It was Dawson. This shop team went out and they tried to find the best quality merchandise. And that's the thing with all our merchandise. The stuff is really, really good. So. All right, let's go back to Starbase, Alex. I want to run this one by maybe just a general status. Where are we at with Pad 1. Steelers fans asking that. Where is it in the renovation? What's left to do? Got a ballpark time frame when that thing's going to be at least to the point where they can test some vehicles on it?
Yeah, so right now they are building the launch mount out at Sanchez. They're putting together all those pieces. I believe they have the bottom portion of it. There are 3 layers to the launch mount, so there's still a few more pieces to come and be put together. That one is probably going to take at least 5 or 6 months based on previous timelines. It's quite weld heavy, let's put it that way. It's probably going to take a bit of time on the pad side of things. So the tower is completely gutted. It doesn't have any pipes or anything like that. It only has to illuminate the lights, basically, and that's pretty much it. The chopsticks are also like they don't have any of the drawworks. They don't have any of the pulleys or anything like that. All of that has been removed. So that needs to be put in whenever it happens. But obviously, the main concern right now, or sort of the main focus for SpaceX, is on the flame trench side of things. So that one already got its foundations earlier this year. Then they started the digging. I think they are very close already to digging out the entirety of the flame trench, if not already. I haven't really checked out the latest work, but basically they are now putting together the service structure. So next to the launch mount, there's like a thing that's attached to the side. That's the service structure or bunker, cryogenics bunker. That's where they have about a lot of the valve controls and things like that. It's sort of where you got the tank farm coming in from one side of the launch pad, and then it arrives to the launch mount. And before it gets to the launch mount, you have all of these different systems to control basically regulate all of the things coming into the launch mount and everything. That's what that service structure is. Right now, it's just a skeleton. It's just the truss of the structure. It doesn't have any hardware on it right now. So they need to put all of that together in the next few months. And then after that as well, they need to start putting together the walls of the flame trench. What they're doing right now is for both that service structure and the walls of the flame trench, they're putting together that hardware off-site and then installing it in place once the location is ready to accept that hardware. For example, the service structure has already been put together on its proper location. It was before at another location, sort of like a few meters off and being built off from where it should have been originally. But they did all of that so that they could do parallel work, right? While you're preparing the foundations and everything on the location, then you get that structure built in that other location outside, and then you put it on the actual foundations, and that's sort of nice. And all together, the flame trench walls are also being welded together. As I said, it's nearby. It's sort of like to the side of the pad, but it's not on the location that they usually go. That's probably going to be once the location is actually prepared for those wall trench pieces to go in and being installed. Those are also then filled in with concrete, so we're probably going to see a lot of concrete trucks arriving to the pad. It was hundreds, if I'm not mistaken, for pad 2. It's probably going to be the same for pad 1 once they start doing that. And of course, once the majority of all of those systems are in place, then they are able to roll out the launch mount, place it in place. There's like 4 big legs that are anchored to the walls of the trench, very deep and all that. So that's where it's going to sit. It's going to be welded to the rest of the equipment. It's going to take a long time. Right now, they are just getting started. Pretty much, like it's not that they started right now, but all of the work has been basically on the foundations and digging down. So there's a lot of work still left to do on that pad. So I would say probably middle of next year, probably at least another year of work, just because of all of that, like another 5 or 6 months for the flame trench work and the launch mount work, both of them in parallel. And then once together, they still need to put a lot of things together as well and do functional testing and all that stuff. It's going to take a while. So I think about a year or so from now.
I don't know if this is any breaking news or anything that I kind of took a peek at this too from DBHPSU. It looks like we got a little bit of venting going on out at Massey. Is that anything of significance, or is that just a tanker unloading? Just seems like a few little wisps going out there. I don't know if you guys are taking a look at that.
They may be doing some Booster 21 cryo, right?
Yeah, it might be the next round for B-21 and cryo, because the previous test yesterday was only a partial test. It wasn't a full test, where we only saw partial frost on the LOX tank and the methane tank, but the methane tank is not, of course, at Massey's for crowd testing. It's not filled with methane; it's filled with nitrogen. So obviously it's inert, and the last thing you want to have happen is a ship 36 type scenario should the worst happen. So that's why they use inert fluids there. But they could be spooling up for a full crowd test this time, depending on what the purpose was of yesterday, whether it was an unplanned hold and abort, or that was just a planned partial. But yeah, they have to fill it up all the way to have the booster fully certified. So that might be what they're about to do.
You're good. And a question here, I'll take this one from Nor's Mythics 90 about testing B-21 that started. Is the site far enough away to safely roll a ship in the booster? Yeah, most definitely. Max, correct me if I'm wrong. I think from production site to Massey's about 4 miles as the crows flies, and it'd be going the other way. So even if there was,
it's plenty far.
Yeah,
it's plenty far. Even if they were to have a full ship run, like ship 36, they're plenty far away. Even if a booster was to pop during cryo, we saw that happen with booster 18. Remember, and then that wasn't even that concussive of an event. It didn't really expand beyond the reach of Massey's. So yeah, Massey's is pretty well isolated compared to the rest of the sites around Starbase. So if anything was to go wrong there, I think everywhere else is going to be fine.
Yeah, one of the things to point out is that the Massey's test site, where the boosters and ships and things like that are cryo tested, and then the ship also has its own static fire test, that is far enough away from Highway 4 that whatever testing occurs at Massey's doesn't really impact what happens at Highway 4. I did once the math, and it's about almost the same distance from where the ship, for example, they do the static fire test for the ship to the end of Massey Road, like all the way to the north, getting to Highway 4. Basically, it's about the same distance as from the launch site to LBJ Boulevard, the intersection. Yeah, it's about as far, which seems weird because it feels like Massey's is closer, but it was like, if you apply the same blast danger area, it's sort of around the same. And that's about where they put the roadblocks for any, booster static fire tests, or when they used to do the ship static fire tests at the launch site and things like that. So it seems like they basically chose Massey's very well in that sense, because it's the perfect distance away from the highway that they don't need any extra special safety operations or anything like that. Just close the road to Massey's, and that's it. But that's a private road, so it doesn't really affect anybody other than themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great part about that site. Like you say, Alex, it's one road in and out, and SpaceX has control over it, so they can close that, and it really doesn't impact Highway 4. That traffic keeps going back and forth as normal, as opposed to like when they used to have to do testing down by the pad area. And also with Massey's, while we're still there, am I correct in thinking that they're planning to expand the Massey test area? That they got some land there they could do that?
They want to extend the footprint of the Massey test site, but we'll see when that happens. They're still sort of in the paperwork side of things, of doing the exchange of land and whatnot. It usually takes a while until actual clearance starts and plans are put forward and things like that. So it might be a while, but there's a clear, let's say, that SpaceX really wants to expand operations there, and obviously being able to do more than what they do already, that will be great, especially once they have not just one booster out, but maybe 2 boosters. I mean, booster 22 is right on the heels of booster 21 out there. If they were doing like 3 or 4 boosters at a time, then you're probably at that point where maybe one booster is out there for a cryo test, and then the next one is about to come, right? And so you start getting into a traffic jam, and especially if you started using them, maybe at the beginning, that's also another thing that may happen, where you might still do static fires of ships, for example, even if they are flight proven, because they still need to learn. They're not at Falcon 9 levels just yet. In the future, they will probably skip those once they are reflown and everything. But maybe at first, they might still do some of those tests just to verify, gather more data. The more they learn about the vehicles, the better, and all that stuff for reusability. So that might also be a way where you can deconflict a little bit of the traffic going into and out of masses. We saw that a couple of weeks ago with Ship 40 and Ship 41. Ship 41 had to go off for cryo, and Ship 40 had to go to static fire. And then it was like, who goes first? I need to go. No, you. And it was the ship. The ship musical, whatever it's pronounced, it's
Musical
yeah.
chairs.
Yeah, the musical chairs, but sort of like musical ships or something like that. Yeah, that's what we call
And
them.
if anything, they'll need that room for more ships than boosters, because the plan will, at least right away, be to recover and reuse boosters more often than they will with ships. So they'll need a lot more demand for ships, because those will either be downrange or recovered and not reflown, depending on what their purposes are, because they are still well away from any sort of ship reuse. I mean, they still have to catch the first version 3 booster and reuse that one. Hopefully, Flight 14 if all goes well. So yeah, I think that'll be a bigger holdup for ships, but boosters, hopefully they won't have to start, or they won't be tossing boosters for much longer, and they can just catch those and start reusing those and save a majority of the assembly and testing. I guess headache. Might be that might be a bit harsh, but just testing overall. I guess save that for ships over boosters, at least for probably the next year and a half or so.
Okay. I want to thank Snorsmythic for that. And Max, I've been looking. I thought SpaceX maybe was going to be looking at putting a museum or something like that there, more than just the rocket garden. There was something called the Mars Embassy, I think. I don't know if that's even it, but have you heard anything on that?
I'm not the most familiar, especially with the embassy, but the as far as we are aware, there is sort of going to be like a rocket park kind of thing across the street from Star Factory, as far as we are aware. Don't know exactly what the details are on that, what vehicles are going to go there, how it's going to be laid out, whether it's going to be private or publicly accessible. Not quite sure yet. All we know is roughly where it's going to be laid out. Also have no idea, unless I miss something, when it's going to be open to the public. But I think if they want to include version 3 vehicles in there, they have to fly a few of them first, right? So I think we still have some time before that's ready.
Yeah, and SpaceX, if I could make a design recommendation on that, gift shop, public restrooms, restaurant. Okay, we got Izzy J is wondering, maybe take this one here. How long it take to lay down the crane at pad 1? They can do it quick. It's like under an hour for that. So would it be a big sign they're going to do an attempt tomorrow? Yeah, it's a sign anyway. But a better sign is we look for road delays.
Yep.
The road delays are the key. That's our next big domino that has to fall before we get a closer idea of when Flight 13 is.
And the beach closures for launch as well.
Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely. So, and you go back, it's been a few years, but there's a great video that DOS made as far as all the tea leaves and all the things you have to drop for a launch. It's always good to go back and review that from time to time. But yeah, like I say, we've been through this party once here, trying to get to Thursday. Just rinse, repeat. We'll get her going again. On that launch delay here, I've got, and this, Alex, I'm going to send this one your way. Oliver Oil, cool name, about detanking the ship in general. Just maybe let's go to more general. Okay, you got Thursday, you've got a rocket full of methane, you got other propellants, you got liquid oxygen. How do they drain that?
Yeah, so as the question is talking about, it is gravity drained. I don't know why they will do it faster. I don't think that's really anything that you will need for the vehicles. I mean, other than getting to the pad quicker once the vehicles are saved. But right now, it's simple. It's fine. It takes about an hour, maybe hour and a quarter or so to be able to drain all of the propellants. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what happens. They use the gravity itself. You've got a very long and tall column of liquid, and that creates its own pressure. And then you've got the gravity as well, because there's gravity pulling down on all of us and also to that liquid, and so you just drain it back. Of course, the fewer the liquid, the harder and slower it is for the liquid to drain, because there's fewer pressure pushing it down and things like that. But I guess, yeah, you could probably drain it faster if you were to raise the pressure in the tanks. But I mean, if you don't really bother about that sort of stuff. I have not seen at least SpaceX really bothering too much about that sort of thing. They bother more about getting the propellants quick in the vehicle, but not out of the vehicle quick. But yeah, that's basically how they do it, both for the ship and the booster.
Thank you, Alex. We had the Acer. I'm not going to even try. It was their secret patch intended for Flight 10 before S36 exploded. I'm not sure before. The Flight 10 patch to me is one of the coolest patches we got. But there was a special patch. I don't know if it's still in the store, even available. It was kind of the shrug patch. I'm just looking at mine up here. It said Starship Flight test shrug, and I think it was X on there. So it was kind of in between there when we had vehicles kind of deciding to.
I think I know what they mean.
Yeah.
All I'm gonna say is that design might still be used. Just saying.
Very good. Max, may I send this one your way again? We're getting back to from Gwen Ever here on the Gigabay in Florida compared to one in Starbase here. It looks like Florida has a lot more cladding, a bit far along. Is that your take as far as where they are on SATA, the one in Texas? It looks like it doesn't have as much cladding. Still got a lot of steel work going on. They're getting the top layers on there. It's just maybe I'll get your take on all that.
Well, for number one, it started first. I think it began going vertical in September of last year, and look at it now, right? It's made massive and rapid progress compared to the one here in Starbase. But in a way, Florida needs that because they don't have a star factory of sorts to assemble the necessary parts for Starship to just, I guess, for overall Starship construction in Florida yet. But they also don't have any sort of mega bays to host or service any vehicles that are shipped there, right? So they're going to need a facility to do that. And the only one that would be able to do that on a reasonable time frame compared to when they want to launch for the first time in Florida would be Gigabay. And so that's why they have been putting so much effort and time into getting it ready as soon as possible to at least receive vehicles and service them after being shipped from Starbase. Assembly, I think, will come later down the line in Florida. I think they'll stick with shipping hardware from Starbase for a while because we haven't even seen ground clearing or breaking for a Star Factory 2.0 that was scheduled and filed to be built over at Roberts Row, which is about 1.5 times the current size of Star Factory in Starbase. So as you can see on the left hand side of your screen, that is the goodness gracious, the Gigabay in Florida, and on the right hand side of your screen are Megabay 1 and 2 on the left side of the picture, with Megabay 1 being in the middle. That is where Booster 20 is currently, and then on the right hand side of that picture is the Gigabay over at here in Starbase. As you can see, the one in Florida is almost a monolith with how much cladding it has left by comparison. And we also got our first interior photos of Gigabay during SpaceX's launch live stream, and also the first of the 420-ton bridge crane posted from Kiko Donchev. I think it was last week on X. And of course, it's 420 tons, right? But it needs to be ready first, because that would be the only facility in Florida that SpaceX has to service Starship vehicles. And that is why it needs to be done first. Eventually, they might have more than one in Florida. They'll probably have more than one in Starbase. So that means Megabay 1 and 2 have to go to make room, which will be a very sad time. But yeah, it has to be done as fast as possible to support Florida operations as fast as possible.
It's also the two different philosophies it seems like they're doing with these Gigabays, where at the Florida Gigabay, they're doing it sort of focus first on the structure and then put everything in.
Yeah.
Whereas on the Starbase Gigabay, they are putting everything in as they are going up with the structure. So now they're starting on the last level, on the penthouse level, as we call it. But you can see a bunch of the piping and everything, the conduits for the air conditioning system and all of the other systems as well for the bay. That is not on the Florida one. We did not see any of that. And so it seems like they're focusing on both at different ways. Let's put it that way. It's not even that the Florida one started earlier. It's just that they decided to complete the structure first and then put everything together inside once they have everything built. They're sort of building things off to one side outside of the Gigabay and then installing them inside. Whereas on the Starbase one, they're sort of putting it all together as they go. So that's an interesting choice. But as you mentioned, maybe the choice that they've made for the Florida Gigabay, that means that they can already install that transfer aisle crane and then roll out boosters out there and ships out there and being able to start processing them, because now they have a roof, they have walls, all of the things, right? So now they have a proper place. If they were to do that at Starbase, there's no place for that, even though it's probably like a couple of months, maybe more, until it reaches this level. So yeah,
I mean, look at that. Look at that. Can you imagine when that's operational? Like, good Lord. I can't wait to see vehicles rolling out of that. That's going to be absolutely insane. Like, finally, right? Just seeing Starship here. I'm not in Florida. I'm in Starbase right now. Seeing Starship in Florida for the first time, like vehicles, like not just transport stands or pad hardware, vehicles, is going to be one of the more special days in Space Coast history, I think, because there have only been really a handful of vehicles that are, I guess, large enough in scale to even compare. I mean, there's been the Saturn V. There's been, I guess, we could put the space shuttle in there, New Glenn, SLS, and now Starship. And Starship eclipses all of them by a pretty decent amount. In version 4, once they stretch both the booster and ship, even more so. Then insert New Glenn 9x4, and we're back to a pretty good size comparison. But seeing a vehicle as large as Starship is in Florida is going to be quite a special thing.
I'm just looking forward to it. I would imagine, Max, you'd know better than I, the path it would take if that thing's rolling past the VAB. Mm-hmm. That shot, that view is going to be...
I can't, dude, Roger, I've been dreaming of that for like 3 years now. I'm not even joking. Either a ship or a booster or both. And
it might roll twice.
Even now. Yeah.
Because it might be first horizontally from... You'll Thank Me Later on the turn basing, then out to Robert's Road to get vertical, right? And then again, once it rolls out to the pad. That's going to be funky, like going horizontal first and then vertical. You should do a joke about that if you're out there. You're like, hang on.
That's a pretty big
vertical.
Falcon 9. I guess Falcon 9 just got big all of a sudden. I don't know. I've been thinking about that for a long time. And I hope that we're no more than maybe 2 to 3 months away. Hopefully at the latest. That obviously is all, again, pending on the results from Flight 13, which currently officially says net or no earlier than tomorrow. But we have nothing to suggest that it's actually going to happen because the vehicles are not at the pad, and we have no road closures that would give us an idea of when they're heading to the pad. So, big question marks.
Okay, and kind of on the same note here, I'm gonna get both of you guys. I'll start with Alex here. Sammy in Miami is wondering about test flight 15 from Starbase or the Cape. Let's start with a premise as far as the next, or the 39A launch. First question I have is, do you think it would be a new vehicle? Let's just go with the booster. A new vehicle or a flight proven booster? If so, do you got any? What's your best guess on which ones?
Max, you go first.
I think ship will be brand new. Obviously, Flight 15, there will be nowhere near ready to catch or refly a ship at that point. Maybe they might catch the ship from Flight 15, but obviously to refly a ship before Flight 15 would be to catch the one on 14 and refly it. Don't see that happening. Even if 13 goes perfectly. So on the ship side, I think they're going to use a brand new ship. They could, though, also use a flight-proven booster to get that one out of the way of Starbase operations and build, I think, one to three more for Starbase operations. Just similar to how SpaceX has a Falcon 9 first stage fleet in Vandenberg and a fleet in Florida. They're probably going to have a similar thing where they have vehicle fleets in Starbase and vehicle fleets in Florida, right? So it might make the most sense operationally to catch the booster on 14, refurbish it, and then ship it to Florida, and then keep it in Florida for operations down the line. So that's my best guess. So reuse the booster on 14, assuming all goes well, of course, on 15, and then a brand new ship for Flight 15 as well, assuming that's all from Florida.
My take probably takes a little bit longer to explain, but basically, if Flight 13 is perfect, right, and they get that booster splashdown, that ship splashdown, then I think Flight 14 becomes a full-on flight. Like, they catch the booster, or at least they try to catch the booster, they try to catch the ship, and if that is successful, then I can see that booster being sent to Florida for the first Florida flight. After that, so on the ship side of things, obviously, in this hypothetical situation that I'm trying to say, the ship gets caught on Flight 14, but I don't think it's going to be reused right away because it will be the first time for the ship, and you have a lot of other things going on there. I do think, however, that they are probably in a good position to carry not just one new ship, but 2 new ships. My reasoning behind that is because they have 2 ship stands and 1 booster stand at the Cape, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me unless you are actually planning to send 2 ships and 1 booster. And it will actually make sense to send 2 ships for the whole thing that we were discussing before, where you've got 2 ships, they only can be static fired at Massey's. You probably carry 1 out there because only the barge can only carry 1 vehicle at a time. So you first carry 1, maybe ship 42, say. While all of those preparations for flight are happening, you probably ready flight the ship 43 for that same flight, and maybe even think about perhaps barging it and getting everything staged, and then getting everything ready so that, if something happens to ship 42, say it needs an engine swap or anything like that, and you don't have anywhere to test that at the Cape, then you probably can just send ship 43 out there and do that change and use the other ship stand for such a thing. That's my take on that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if SpaceX were to do such a thing, where not only 1 ship, but 2 ships, and this could be doable in theory by October. Like, if they are really, truly serious about reusing boosters, and if they are truly, really serious about flying from Florida and all of these things, I think that's probably going to be something in the October timeframe with booster 21 and maybe either ship 42 or ship 43. Right now, the timelines will allow such a thing. Ironically,
So
maybe
you think-
booster 22 would not be available. We'll see. I still
So
need
you
to do
think-
the full math on that.
You think they'll try and catch a ship on Flight 14?
Yeah. I think it's gonna be a full profile. It's gonna go into orbit. It's gonna do the reentry and catch. Because what else is there to do if Flight 13 goes perfect? That's sort of the point, right?
I mean,
they have some paperwork already for a supposed ship return demonstration. Is the official naming of that?
Mm-hmm.
So my thinking is that why would you wait? Just do it on Flight 14.
Well, there is, depending on how long they want to keep the ship up in orbit or how many orbits they want to keep it up for, is that going to be enough time to safe the booster if they're going to use the same tower, in terms of getting propellant offloaded, depressurized, safe for transport, put it back on a transport stand and clear it away from the site, and then get ready for the ship to come back.
That can
Seems
probably
like it would
take
take-
24 hours, like a day,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And the ship can stay 48. So
I would
think it's
love to see
doable.
that. I 100%. I would love to see it. I just don't know if I see them catching a ship so soon. At least before the pads in Florida are ready, I guess. I don't know.
my take is that if they don't do it, I'll be disappointed. I'm actually challenging SpaceX
well.
to do more sooner, right? Like I'm probably even more demanding. I guess, but yeah, like it feels weird. Like Flight 13 deploying already Starlink satellites and things like that. Why wouldn't you do that? And if you go to orbit, just return the ship back. It's been doing fine on reentries. So unless you see something odd with a heat shield during the flight, just not return it. Then just dump it in the ocean. They have places for such a thing. They have contingencies, the different areas around Hawaii, South Pacific. Now they're trying to get another approved for North Pacific. So yeah, that's my take. I feel like if Flight 13 is really perfect, why not? That's my take. I'm just like that.
That's bold. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how
But
it
it's
plays out for
SpaceX,
them.
right? They
It is
went for a
SpaceX,
catch on
that is
Flight
true.
5 just after the first splashdown of the booster, and we were like, no, there's no way they're going to be doing this. They did it. So
They nailed it. Yep.
And I think
It's
we've
true.
gone through so many ship reentries already, and they flew a clean ship on the previous version, and it re-entered pretty much well. No issues there at all. And mind you, that was after an engine out on ascent. It needed to do a much weird profile during reentry. You saw the altitude even come up because it needed to lift itself a little bit because it came a little bit short. With the Raptor relight in space, it sort of pushes it a little bit further downrange. And so I feel like they had the reentry quite nailed down already by now. I wouldn't say very comfortable. I still, it's a nail biter sort of thing, right? But it feels much more, I don't know, comfortable, if you know what I mean. It's definitely not the Ship 29 or even Ship 30 era.
Yeah, no.
Like this seems
definitely
a
not.
lot more stable than what we saw even with version 2, like Flight 10 or
Yeah.
Flight 11 even.
God, that is such a cool view. I can't wait to see that again. Good Lord.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, one of the cool scenarios I'm looking forward to is once the ship catching reaches a certain level of maturity, you launch a mission from Texas. You send the ship up. Let's say it's Starlink, does this thing. You don't have to bring it back to Texas. You can just bring it down in Florida when it's ready, and that way you can build up your ship inventory in Florida. It's mostly getting the boosters out there. So coming up here, I want to touch on the store here again. We got a lot of great stuff that's still out there. I just want to give you a little heads up. We're looking about 50% left to go in the stock. So if you want to get your merch from from coming up here, Flight 13, get in there and get it. You got all kinds of cool stuff from previous launches too. So check it out. We got patches, we got pins, we got stickers, we got T-shirts, all kinds of great stuff on there. So be sure to check out our store. If you get a chance to do that. So I got a couple, going to thank some people here. We got Arianespace, friends and I are watching the stream, wonder when they'll roll out booster 20 and 40. That is the
Same.
question of the day.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
All right. Yeah, we're waiting, just constantly hitting F5, refreshing for the delays here. We got Turtle Sanctuary. I don't know if that's a score. John Marquez 128 is supporting his flight. Is with 20 Starlink V3s on board. How would you agree that this is the most important test mission for Flight 13? Well, I think one, reliability of the vehicle going through its flight performance and getting the Starlinks out. I'm looking forward to. I'm sorry, I'm reading something in the back channel here. Getting the Starlinks and those views coming back from them. But let's get you guys' take. Max, Flight 20, what's the importance? Where does it stand success, failure-wise in the program?
Flight 20?
Not Flight 20. Sorry, Flight 13. My apologies.
It's certainly among the most important to date. Obviously, I think the most meaningful so far because it's the first time SpaceX is carrying meaningful payload aboard Starship that isn't a Starlink simulator or just a Dodger dog, as they call them for Flight 12. So very important, obviously incredibly important for Starlink version 3 to prove that they can be deployable and communicate with the current Starlink constellation in low Earth orbit. They can't do that. They have bigger problems on their hands because Starlink version 3 can only fly on Starship because of its size and its weight. It isn't like they can fly 2 or 3 of them somehow on Falcon and with the super high Falcon cadence, right? They can't do that. Version 3 can only fly on Starship via the PEZ dispenser system. So it is incredibly important. And assuming the ascent burn goes well, we should see the first deployments, I want to say, around 8 minutes after main engine cutoff on ship. Because it is flying in a suborbital trajectory, those will also be in the same trajectory. So even if all does not go well, and they don't have control or comms with the satellites, they will re-enter in a very similar area to ships, so that they will not become space debris. But in terms of importance, it is incredibly important, if not the most meaningful so far in Starship's history in terms of payload mass and I guess reliability as well.
And Alex, if I may, what is that white stuff on the methane tank on Booster 21? I'm just wondering. Looks
Oh
like
yeah,
we
they're
got some
probably
frost.
crying it, right? Let's
Yeah.
see. Let's show that. Maybe there we go. That's Booster 21 out there at Massey's getting cryo tested. Again, this is the second cryo test for the vehicle. As far as I know, I don't know if maybe something happened while I was asleep, but then I will also have seen it probably somewhere else.
So
there's
where does it stand
bunch of
now
people doing that.
in its testing regime? We're seeing frost. It looks to be on the methane tank. How does this progress? If you can maybe just kind of refresh everybody when they do these testings, what's the sequence?
Well, there's not really a set sequence. They sometimes do either one tank or the other, or maybe both at the same time. Lately, they have been doing both at the same time. They load nitrogen and oxygen, usually nitrogen on the methane tank and oxygen on the oxygen tank. They do that because you need a lot of nitrogen, like way more than they have, and so to compensate, they sort of have nitrogen on the methane tank and oxygen on the oxygen tank. They don't load methane for those for obvious reasons. It's the very first time that they load cryogenics on these vehicles, and it will be quite hazardous to do that with methane. Oxygen in itself is not flammable. It's the thing that burns things, right? So unless they have a very big bad day, it wouldn't really impact anything by loading the vehicle with oxygen. So that's why they are able to do that loading. And so the methane tank right now, probably with nitrogen, we can see also the oxygen tank farm out there down at the bottom, that sort of venting that we can see. I think it's from the oxygen side of the Massey's tank farm. The nitrogen one is sort of to the right, the methane one all the way to the left. And so I believe that's basically what is going on right now. They do a bunch of these tests, usually like 1 or 2 of them, maybe sometimes 3 if they really need that. There's not a set amount of times that they do these. As I said, it's usually like maybe 1 or 2, sometimes up to 3 if they really feel like it. But yeah, that's basically it.
All right, thank you, Alex. And we got. I'd rather be flying an X-wing. Oh, that's cool. Any chance they could roll stack and go straight to fueling and launch? Could they? Yeah. I mean, we saw. I mean, it took a bit, for just prior to the first attempt. The booster went out there, was there for, was a couple days. And then, the ship went out and they stacked and were ready to fly really quick. Can they do it? Yeah. Will they? It all depends on what they find on Booster 20. If there's some sort of testing that they want to continue on with Booster 20 before they go, we will see. Again, keep your eyes peeled on road delays. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, go ahead.
If they're going to be replacing 2 or more engines on the booster, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some other testing of sorts at the pad before the ship gets there, just to verify that the turbopumps are happy, the engines overall are happy with each other, and that the booster behaves itself. Whether that means static fire, don't know. Sounds extreme. Whether that means a spin prime igniter, I don't know. But I would not be surprised if we see a bit of testing first before flight. But given how soon they want to fly, I would imagine if the test goes well, they'll roll ship right out, stack it, and then try to launch the next day. But yeah, new engines always add a level of uncertainty with the whole equation. So we'll see what they opt to do. But new engines are a pretty big deal, especially when you tried to launch and couldn't launch, and now you have to swap out engines. That's never a small deal.
Yeah, and what we don't know if there was anything on the pad side, if they've got to do anything like that. So we'll keep an eye on that
Exactly.
as well.
Yep.
We got Michigan trailer rental. Yeah, I go up to Michigan, rent a trailer. That sounds pretty cool. Is there a benefit to static firing the booster with some sort of simulator for the ship's weight on top? I don't think there would
Uh,
be much. I mean, they've got enough experience. I mean, we've only done one flight with version 3. You got a little bit of data Thursday on this with, a full
Yep.
stack. And, we had all the data from the version 2s. I don't know. Alex, may I'll start with you. Would there be any advantage to having a simulated, just something with the mass of a ship on top of a booster for a static fire? Does that get you anything?
Not really. I mean, it's one of those things that you might think at first that yeah, that might seem like an interesting thing to add and whatnot, but it's not really that useful. It doesn't really add anything to your vehicle in itself. The loads on the pad are very very much just on the pad. It's static. It's not moving or anything like that. So it doesn't really add operationally anything else to your vehicle. So yeah, it's a lot of work for just barely any gain.
Yeah, I think there's other data they want to get, and I don't think that really buys you anything. We got Drew Nartaka, $5 super chat, and I apologize, I'm going more for the questions. Appreciate everybody's support for this thing. If I didn't call you out exactly, it all helps. Goes right back into the our system here. As I know, Max, you can attest to, these cameras down there take a lot of work. You're in a very harsh environment, but we keep working. We try to improve as much as we can to give you the best coverage you can. Not only the day-to-day stuff for the launch and special things going down there. Anyway, I was wondering, say on a ship, heat shield takes damages. Ship is stranded in orbit. Do you think they'd refill the ship, send to the moon and Mars for the steel itself? I don't think so. Maybe down the road. First, you have to have the infrastructure to deconstruct the vehicle into some sort of meaningful parts.
That also assumes you can get to it in a reasonable time frame to where you don't lose control of it completely and just it's a lost cause.
Yeah.
Like if it's tumbling, yeah, good luck. Just good luck trying to regain control of it. But it might make more sense to try and either leave it alone and hope it burns up somewhere reasonable, or try to find a way to launch another Starship and try and dock with it and gain further control of it. But I hope we don't run into that situation anytime soon. But that all depends exactly on what the problem is, why it lost control, how bad is its launch, is its loss of control, what's the altitude of its orbit, its inclination, etc., etc., etc. But I think going as far enough to send it off into a farther orbit, like off to the moon or to Mars, to use as, I guess, a resource material, you have to have it. If you want to have it sent to Mars, you have to, for one, have it survive reentry again, and if it's not controlled, I mean, I guess to have it sent that way as well, you would have had to have found a way to regain control and send it out that way. But I don't know, to be honest with you, that seems like a bit of mental. That seems like a headache and a half to try and solve. But hopefully, we do not find ourselves in a situation where we have to. But either way, that is not a good situation to be finding yourself in.
Yeah, and the main thing is you got to land the thing. Crash landing, it doesn't buy you a whole lot. But
no, it does not.
My take would be, okay, it's under control. Let's say they can get it under control. You've got heat shield damage, data. Bring it home. Let's see how it does. Let's see if the stainless steel lives up to, what the tolerances are on there.
We have seen starships make it through reentry with missing tiles to this point, and also in other damage. I think it was Flight 10, where they had a bit of an explosion on the aft end of the ship, where they had some. I think it was ice clogging one of the vent ports, and that caused it built up a pressure, and it caused a pretty violent explosion around the engine bay. But ship came back and survived. And on flight, I think it was Flight 11, there was a literal burn through on the LOX tank for a ship, and it still managed to come back and splash down in a completely controlled manner, like it didn't even care. And that's one of the benefits of using a stainless steel base structure compared to other materials like aluminum, which are lighter but have a much lower thermal threshold before they begin to get weak or break down. And that's unfortunately what got Columbia and the crew of STS-107 coming back from their mission back in 2003. Whether or not that would have happened if that structure was made of steel, I don't want to go into speculation. But what we have seen with Starship is that steel has proven to be very robust in during atmospheric reentry, especially in peak heating, even on sections that are either damaged or intentionally missing tiles, or I guess not intentionally in some aspects. Because going forward, you don't want to be intentionally missing any, right? But I I think ships are pretty durable the way they are now, and I think just as Starship progresses, we're going to see SpaceX test them even further, especially on for launch site recoveries. But it's in a much better shape to deal with a missing tile than really any other spacecraft would be if there was a piece of heat shield missing. Orion would not do very well if a piece of its heat shield was missing coming back from the moon. Like it just would not, it wouldn't do well. So yeah, Starship is already very robust.
Yeah, I kind of harken back to the BFR days and make your own words up for BFR. You know, SpaceX spent, I think it was $100 million on an autoclave for carbon real, COPV, huge COPV tanks. That's what they're going to do in COPV, carbon fiber. That's the thing. That's going to do it. And then Elon comes something counterintuitive, and they switch to stainless steel. And you think back to that decision, it's like, in one way, as a gutsy decision, they just spent $100 million on this thing, and now it's totally worthless to them. But look at what it's done for them. Is the manufacturing is so much easier. You can buy stainless steel, special alloys. You can put a coil, then they learned how to do it with a coil, the robot welder. You can put that stuff on a truck, any flatbed, and you can roll it there and get it out. I mean, that was such a game changer just for the whole program. Think about, what we've seen with the COPVs now with the small ones and issues. And, maybe that would advance the technology. But yeah, it's the stainless steel, again, I mean, they found a good solution for it. That's what I'm trying to say here. Okay, we got William says, you guys and gals are the best. Thank you for keeping us on the loop. What's going on? William, it's our pleasure. I don't know how I ended up here. I'm your face in front of a camera for some way. Just be careful that those L2 subscriptions, they're great, but then it'll lead to Discord, and then you'll become a chat moderator, and it's just a slippery slope. So, just be careful with that. We got Bideford. Bideford, always thank you. I hope things are going well with you. Our thoughts are with you, but thanks for this holiday, and here's the Spain winning for Alex. So, Alex, I hope it's going well for you. And
it's still 0-0, so
0-0.
Nothing. I think, yeah.
And we've got Tenacious Dragon with a super chat here. Thank you very much. Can we safely assume no launch tomorrow? Okay, let's go back to square one. This is SpaceX. You cannot safely assume anything about SpaceX.
No,
we don't know. Again, and this is some of the fun part about this whole generation, this whole renaissance of spaceflight. Something can happen every day. You could be having a nice test in Florida of a big new rocket, and then it kind of decides to explode on itself. We have launches. Yeah.
The safest way is whenever SpaceX says, "Hey, we're not launching tomorrow." If that happens, then that's how you know they're not launching tomorrow. That's how it goes.
That's for sure. Again, that's I'm the old guy. I grew up with Apollo. Apollo was fun. It was exciting, and then NASA kind of went. I won't get there. But now we got this going on. All these industries, they're going out. They're doing stuff. They're taking risks. If you know anybody that wants to get in an industry in any way, shape, or form, if you can weld stainless steel, there's jobs for you. If you're a crane operator, if you're steel worker, if you're a pipe fitter. Oh, my God, all these companies are needing all those technologies. And, I kind of harken back. This is like, if you think about the 1850s and the railroads, you had all these really, really rich people putting in this transportation infrastructure where something like this, things are going to work. Some things aren't going to work. We'll see what shakes out, but no matter what, it's exciting stuff. And just a quick reminder here, since we are totally crushing the World Cup in viewership here, we got room for all kinds of questions. Tag us at NSF or NASASpaceflight. They'll come into our queue. Got plenty of time here. We're just hanging out with y'all and be happy to go talk about anything you want. Speaking of blowing up stuff, Alex, maybe I'll start with you. Uh, where are we with Blue Origin and its pad? I'm trying to find the question here, but maybe you could start in on that. Are, they got significant work to do, but you got any updates on where they are currently?
They're taking apart the access tower, I guess you can call it, or the service tower, whatever you prefer to call that. They are also taking apart, so not taking apart, but more like they had the launch bridge, which is sort of this massive concrete slash steel section that sort of hangs over the flame trench. They also took out the launch mount itself out of the flame trench, because all of that, when New Glenn exploded, basically broke and fell down into the trench. They've taken apart, because it broke in two pieces, the launch mount itself and the launch bridge, and it fell down, but it's still largely intact. Some damage that they need to fix, but it's largely intact, and so they want to reuse that and basically just refurb and repair it and put it back again, and maybe do some modifications with the new concept of operations that they have. But that's basically where we are right now. Other than that, there's not a lot of other information of what we should expect over the next few months. They're still trying to get back on the pad by the end of the year, so we'll see if that happens.
Very good. Yeah, they got a lot of work in front of them here. Alex, maybe I'll run this one by you. Canon O'Toole is wondering about LC-39 at the Cape. Do you have any update as far as what's going on there and what the plans currently are with 39 or 49?
With 49, I think those were canceled, or at least they have been in a long pause for the moment. It doesn't seem like they are really putting any effort into those plans. Anyways, they have LC-39A, they have LC-37A, and Slick 37A and Slick 37B. So they have already 3 launch pads underway at the Cape. So far they have not really expanded on anything else. There's no paperwork on any of those things. There's no groundwork at all or anything like that. So yeah, other than maybe 4 years ago, I think it was when it was suggested, they have not really gone forward with that at all.
Okay. We got 80 KBM is saying it takes 15 refuels for a moon ship. How many refuels needed for a test flight landing to Mars? I don't think that would be much of a difference. I think, and Alex, you can correct me if I'm wrong, as far as the majority of the work is getting the vehicle into low Earth orbit. And those of you that played Kerbal that can somehow manage to refuel your ship, once it's fueled, the delta V to go pretty much anywhere is a whole lot less. That if you had a full tank, getting to the moon is no problem. I think getting to Mars is no problem. I can't remember if my orbital mechanics is right, but I think you can get that payload pretty much anywhere this side of Saturn. Alex, does that fit with a fully fueled ship? How far can we get it? Does it make a difference on the fuel to where it goes?
It depends on the payload that you're carrying. If you're basically carrying an empty ship, just the propellant and maybe, I don't know, a few cameras or something like that, and you send it out to Mars, you can probably get there without having a full load of propellant. You don't need the full tanks full for the moon. You need, even if you are low in payload, because it's a very demanding mission profile. There's no atmosphere to slow you down, basically, unlike Mars. Mars needs more propellant in the case of like exiting Earth orbit. But once you are on your way out to Mars, then you have the atmosphere to slow you down, and you only need the landing propellant, basically, and that's pretty much it. Whereas for the moon, you don't have any sort of atmosphere to slow you down, so you have to carry a bunch more propellant to be able to slow down and land, and also then go back up into orbit, because on the moon, you don't have any in situ resource utilization for methane, or at least not anywhere close to what could be done maybe much further down in the future. Whereas on Mars, you are much closer technologically. Like, it's a much smaller bridge to gap. It's quite huge still, but smaller, right? And so that is the other way around. It's a much smaller gap to bridge. I'm getting confused here, but you know what I mean, right? That on Mars you will land the ship empty, and you don't really you don't really care much about carrying it back to Earth, right? While on the Moon, you really need to top off those propellant tanks, because then you need to lift off and go into lunar orbit, at least to deliver the whatever kind of mission you're doing. You're probably doing like an Artemis mission. You probably need to deliver them to an Orion. Maybe once it's all Starship, maybe there's a lunar Starship and then like a transport Starship between the Moon and Earth or something like that. You still need to sort of come back, right? And on the Moon, then that means you need way more reserves of propellant. So you need to top off the whole thing before leaving for the Moon. Whereas on Mars, you can probably make your propellant out there with the resources that they have, which are, technologically, again, as I said, it's a little bit more easier because you have the CO2 in the atmosphere, you have the water from the water ice as well. You also have carbon dioxide ice as well, but that's more like in polar regions where you can do that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a lot easier to access to carbon, which is the problem on the Moon. It's a lot more complicated to do in situ resource utilization out there and refuel your ship out there. So yeah, that's basically it. You can probably save a little bit of propellant by going to Mars and things like that, but you still probably want a full tank for the sole reason that you want to carry payload. You want to carry your 100 tons to Mars, because that's going to be a lot of things that you can carry, a lot of hardware and a lot of things for that in situ resource utilization. If they want to carry their Optimus robots or whatever they want to carry, yeah, that's going to be a lot of payload that they'll be able to carry.
Yeah, I know we're not going to have, it's not going to happen this next transfer window, possibly the next one. That I just love daydreaming about that stuff, like the Mars mission and with Starship. My hope is that when they come to that and they actually go for those missions, they send multiples. I'd love to see them. I think Elon's even hinted to this before. Again, it's Elon, so we'll see what happens. But let's say you could send 5 ships in the transfer window. They're staggered away. The orbits are going to change, depend on what, look at the pork chop plot, and you can find out when it's going to get there, but they're not going to arrive all at the same time. I think that gives you some leeway. That gives you some data. You send the first one in, you do your best, you think it's going. If it works, it works. If not, at least you got a couple days worth of data. If it's a software issue, you got some time to work on that and get it. If they say they get 2 out of 5, I think that's a win. And like Alex was saying, not much carbon on the Moon. Fuel resources are going to be tough, but Mars, yeah, it's a treasure trove of resources for fuel.
Now, in hindsight, maybe they should have done a Hydrolox Starship because of their, that now they're shifting to the Moon. Maybe they're going to try and find ways to refuel Starship on the Moon. But if they had gone with Hydrolox Starship, then that's a lot easier, because you just use the water from the poles.
Yeah. Well,
and now we found even water quite in other places than it's not the poles of the Moon, where maybe you dig a few meters and there might be water down there. So yeah, we'll see.
Or maybe you could just send the methane, tank. We will see. They'll figure it out.
We'll see.
Yeah. Getting stuff off. We got mass driver science fiction stuff, space elevators and all that great stuff. Okay, Alex, I got another one kind of in the way here as far as refueling. Let me find it here. Oh, I got it up here. John Rice is asking, propellant tanker demo due to Artemis. Yeah, we have that coming up. I think you mentioned a previous one, and I'd like to tap your brain on this. We've seen the connection points. There's 4 on a ship. Are those just hard points for connecting the vehicles, or does propellant go through there? How do you get propellant from, say, the tanker to the ship? What kind of connection is that?
The quick disconnect, basically. That's what they use. They're gonna have a dedicated transfer quick disconnect for the propellant. I would say there's the tanker on one side, and then there's the propellant storage Starship, right? There are 2 different variants. So the propellant storage Starship is gonna be the one that's gonna carry the the probe side of things of the docking port. So you have the cone and then the probe, and that's how you get the sort of thing going on there with the docking of the ships. And then the tanker itself is going to be just like any of these ships, but perhaps without the pest dispenser. It's going to carry its own thermal protection system, its own flaps and everything, because that's the one that you load on the ground with the propellant. You go up, you load the sort of the the storage starship, basically the propellant storage starship. You load that one and then you come back, you reuse it again, load it up, fuel it, all the things. Like, that's the one that you want to be coming up and down, whereas the other one, it's probably going to be all without flaps. Maybe it's going to be painted white to reflect some of the sunlight. We don't know, but definitely going to be the one that's going to be doing all of the storage side of things. And so that one in particular, the docking is going to be a little bit of offset so that the quick disconnect of the tanker ship can connect to the dedicated refueling port on I guess, again, as I said, the propellant storage one, the depot version, basically. And that one, the reason why it's offset is because when you connect the quick disconnect with the other one, you're connecting methane with oxygen. Like, the line for the methane will be connecting to the one to the oxygen and vice versa. And so you need one that is sort of flipped, that is a little bit higher up, and that's what they're going to do. Or at least that's what the renders show. So there's going to have a second one on the propellant storage one where it's going to have like a mirror image of the quick disconnect, and that's essentially how they're going to be doing it.
So would there be like an
Then,
umbilical
yeah.
going between the two vehicles then? That would
The
have
port
the flip in
itself,
there,
yeah.
the port itself. But when they're docked, are they close enough it can go just port to port, or will they
Yeah.
need some sort of umbilical between the two?
Yeah, there'd be, so first you've got the docking system. That's the one that sort of fixes them together, and it's gonna be such that the quick disconnects are close to each other, and then there are grapple fixtures on the quick disconnect assembly where you can just hook into it, and that's what they use, for example, on the ground version, where the quick disconnect arm sort of presses against the ship, and it's got, I think it's 4 hooks that are sort of in each corner, and it sort of fixes itself, and you can see it there. That's actually a better like a worse case for showing this, but it's okay. But yeah, the white one sort of has a second docking port a little bit higher up, not docking port, excuse me, like a second quick disconnect above. That's a mirror of the one that it already has, and that's the one that it's going to be connecting to the ships, but yeah, the refueling ones. You can see the white one, that's the propellant storage one, and then you have the tanker below. So yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, that one doesn't have any pest dispenser or anything like that. It's just an empty ship, as empty as you can, so that you just use the main tanks for all this.
Okay, good. So, we're anticipating this mission as far as the refueling mission. So we're going to need 2 vehicles. My back of the envelope is this is not happening in 2026, but hopefully early 2027. Are they launching both tanker? I guess was a target and drone. I forget what the verbiage is. From Texas, or by that time, do you think they'll be able to launch one from Texas and one from Florida, and to get in the right orbital? I don't know, Alex. What do you think about that one?
Well, yeah, they can launch both from each side. I don't know, maybe Max can chime in. You're gonna be on the Space Coast maybe when this thing happens.
I'm planning to. I don't know what the future has in store, but I'm planning to be there. I just hope that they can meet the cadence that they need to meet this. I think it was averaging out like one. I think to start, I think it was maybe 1 tanker a week to start, and 15 total, or around like 12 to 15 thereabouts, for a depot, which then fills the HLS. So, my gut, boy, probably the depot and HLS launching from Florida, perhaps, and then tankers from Starbase. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. But they need to get version 3 operational first.
Yeah, and hopefully as we peek through the windows, we can start seeing some of those vehicles coming out, as well as the HLS. We're anxiously, again, we're just peeping toms looking in
Yes.
those windows, trying to figure out anything. I got a Alex, I got a question for you. And again, I'm picking, choosing. I'm just using you guys because I got stuff I want to know. Right now, for HLS, you're going to have some sort of, it's not going to be for Artemis 3, but eventually you're going to have some way to transfer crew into Orion. And what the renders we see is going through the nose. Now we got the header tank up there, and they're doing that for weight distribution. I guess the question is, what happens to the header tank? Or, would there be enough mass with, just say, the normal infrastructure, the living quarters, the life support system in there to make up for that mass? Or have you done any speculation what happens in the nose when they start getting a tunnel through there?
Well, it wouldn't have any header tanks on the nose cone for starters, and that's only needed for reentry. Anyways, it's not something that they really need when you don't have to re-enter through the atmosphere. That's needed because you have the flaps moving your center of drag or center of lift. I don't remember exactly which one of those, but you basically have to have a balance of where the ship is. And so if you've got the very, let's see there, so if you imagine this is the engine section and this is the nose cone section, you've got very heavy engines here, and so the ship will try to sort of flip back. And so if this is the sort of, it's re-entering this way, right? Normally you re-enter like this, you have the plasma heating here, and that's what you get when you have a good balancing. If you didn't have the things on the nose cone, the header tanks here, then the same weight of the engines will probably try and flip the ship back. And you can see this, what I'm trying to say here, when they do the actual flip, the ship is a little bit like this. It's not fully horizontal. Sometimes it is, depends on its targeting and things like that, but it's mostly horizontal. And then the flaps here, the flaps on the forward end, what they do is they close in, and then the ship sort of goes this way because the engine section starts being a lot heavier. So the way that they basically are able to control the balance of the ship is because of that header tank assembly on the nose cone, but also because of the flaps on the rear and the front are able to also balance that. If you didn't have that, then the flaps need to do a lot more work, and that's not great. You want a more stable reentry. If you also were to remove like the flaps on the aft, for example, then you will also have probably the engines, like a booster reentry, basically, where it goes engines first, and that's something that you don't want on the ship because it's reentering from near orbital velocity, and that's a really steep and hot reentry for those engines. You want it to hit with a thermal protection system, but that's only true on that occasion, on just for reentry. HLS doesn't reenter, doesn't do any of that. Now, would it need any header tanks, say for maybe going with the landing engines, for example? Maybe, but does not need to be on the nose cone. So why would you? They are only on the nose cone because of that reentry attitude issue. So if you don't have that issue because it doesn't reenter, then you can put the header tanks like in the middle of the main tanks. That's what they do with a super heavy booster. The landing tank for the liquid oxygen is at the bottom of the liquid oxygen tank. It's not, I don't know, like on the entrance stage or something like that. It's not anywhere else. It's inside of the main tank, right? So you can probably do something like that on the ship as well if you were to need some kind of dedicated landing engine, but other than that, landing tank. But other than that, it's not really a problem. Just don't put the header tanks. It's not even that they need to remove any header tanks. Just when you build the nose cone, don't put it. And we've seen a few nose cones out there that don't have any header tanks right now because they are not in that step of the process on the build of nose cones. We covered this on Starship Update quite a lot. I know Max has a lot of experience explaining this because he's the one mostly doing all of the Starship Update episodes, but it's true. We cover that often, and that's basically what they do. It doesn't even need to be removed. Just don't install it.
You're good. Thank you, Alex. And thank you, John Ryan, for that question. Max, I'm going to head over to you. We're going to head back to Florida here. If I can find the question here. Okay. It's Drama is asking in Florida. Well, we talked about the pads. In some renders and some plans, we've seen catch towers specifically just for catching. Are those still in the works? Is that still a plan for catch towers only?
As far as we're aware, for Pad 37, yes, it'll have 2 launch towers and 2 catch towers. Now, whether those will be configured for ship only or booster only, I mean, I guess it would be ship only at that point. I think they would be shorter in height, so that would be ship only. Um, as far as we are aware, that is still the plan. I don't think we have seen one at 39A. Alex, jump in if I'm wrong on that one. I think that was a rumor at one point, but we haven't really seen anything specify on that. But for Pad 37, yes, that is the current plan. But they are currently almost done stacking their first launch tower, and I imagine a bespoke ship catch tower will be something they work on next year. As far as we are aware, we have not seen any other tower segments being built at Roberts Road, which is where we have seen them built in the past for 39 and for 37, and also for Tower 2 in Starbase, ironically. But maybe they're building them somewhere else on the Cape that we just can't see. I would not rule it out whatsoever. As they are kind of running out of room over at Roberts Road with what we think is Hangar X3 going up, and also Gigabay taking up a lot more room and construction and parking and everything else. They're kind of short on room over there right now, despite having a bunch. So that, as far as I'm aware, that is still the plan. Although we will not see the first of those probably come to fruition for probably the next year and a half, maybe 2 years at that point.
Very good. We got Alan Rose, 3661, is wondering about Saturn V only had 2 flight tests before starting flying manned missions. It was a different era. They got the 2. They were under such a crunch.
1 in
to
10
get
chance of dying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Take that, sure.
talk about steely-eyed missile men on that. I mean, they
almost tore apart the Apollo 8 stack during flight. Just saying. They didn't
what?
even have they didn't even have a good pogo solution, because Apollo 6 was not even successful. It didn't do all the things that they were planning to do. They just said, okay, let's call it a day and let's fly crew on the next one. They were just that scared to lose the race to the moon. And it had a 1 in 10 chance. Yeah.
Jeez,
it was like that.
Louise.
Yeah, it was such a gutsy
It was
call.
a whole different era.
Yeah, that's for sure. They had just been coming off of Gemini, and they had the Apollo 1 tragedy, and then they flew Apollo 7. I'm trying to remember it was like in October, and you think about the flight cadence of there. I think it was October of '68. You have Apollo 7. That's essentially a return to flight. That's testing out the new command module 2. You're extending it. You're getting like around a week in orbit, just kicking the tires on that whole thing and bringing it back. There's a lot of great stories, or let me put interesting stories out of that mission, but we'll not get into that. And then NASA makes the call. Next mission, we're going to orbit the moon. Okay, guys, you've been practicing. Just strap it on. We're going, and they did it. They had definitely issues and things like that. Okay, so that's December '68. I think it was March of '69. You got Apollo 9 going up. You're testing lunar module in space for the very first time in Leo. I believe it was May I think it was May, Apollo 10. Full up stack, full to the moon, orbit, get down within 10 kilometers of the moon, come back. You had to make sure that the descent and ascent module could separate properly. You had to control the ascent module, could dock with the command module, and make it back. And then July, history happens. Think about that cadence. Can you imagine that with Starship? That would
Or
just
SLS.
Yeah, or
Or
something like
SLS, yeah.
that. I mean that was a total different era. It was
And I was going to also mention, let's not forget the dozens of other launches of the Saturn 1 and Saturn 1B, where a lot of the different, also the F1 engine had such a long story already of development way before that. By the time it first launched, I think it was 1967 when it was the first launch of Saturn V, late 1967. So by the time it launched, they had already done development on that engine for more than a decade. It had been undergoing different steps of development for a while, and there was so many test flights of Apollo before any of this happened which is one of the things that I really dislike when people compare all of this to Apollo, which is like there were so many test flights that were not Apollo X number, right? It's like even the Gemini program and Mercury programs, all of those that built up eventually to that landing on the moon, that it just feels to me that it's unfair to say, oh, well, this is the 13th flight of Starship. Why is it not going to the moon? Saturn V launched to the moon. Well, actually, the 13th flight was Skylab, but whatever. It's just so much different. You've got such a different way and such a different amount of money being put into this, right? You don't have 4% of the non-discretionary budget put into this. Like, you don't have that. So,
and the F1 engine itself also almost halted the entire program because they couldn't figure out the combustion instability in the combustion chamber because it was so big. And they eventually figured that out, or they figured out how to fix that with the thing. Was it the baffles in the combustion chamber that separated the injectors and for combustion in the main chamber. But the F1 itself was very problematic when they were first building it and testing it. Like, it almost halted the entire program. So yeah, Apollo was just a whole different beast. Well, a whole different beast.
Yeah, I mean, that was an era, again, it was a national imperative. Get to the moon. We got to beat the Russians. I don't care what it costs. And they didn't. They threw a boatload of money at NASA. And again, this kind of harkens to my tainted, I won't try to get into it, but why I'm so excited about now. At that point, they said, do it. Engineers, figure out how to do this. We don't know how to do this. You guys figure it out. Here's the money to do it, and do it. And then things kind of, the water got muddled. But that's where we are now with private space, as far as Blue Origin, all these companies. It's their money. They're trying to figure out what solution they want to do. What do they want to solve? And they're letting their engineers go out and solve the problem as far as being dictated what kind of hardware and things like that are doing it. So, Alex, real quick, we're anxiously waiting anything from SpaceX. We got SpaceX website. I think that's the one we're watching for, right? Any information on that? And as far as I know, we've not seen any updates. Is that correct?
yeah, right now there's no updates. We can see there on the SpaceX website. So when you look at that and you look at that countdown clock, that's actually the one on the homepage. So I feel like a lot of people are probably not super duper into this sort of small differences, but there are differences. So for starters, this homepage plays, if you want to call it like that, with the Starship 13 flight test that only started up last week, basically, once they announced it. And that countdown, it's actually a manual countdown. It's not like the real countdown. When you go to the Flight 13 page, so if you go to the top right and you click on there and you can see Starship Flight 13, you can see Starship's 13 flight test, then there's like a small line above that where it says the window. You can see there right now it's July 20th. It's on Eastern time, so it goes to 6:45 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. It's also in 24-hour time, so if you don't know how to count past 12, I'm sorry for you. But that's basically how it is done. So that one in particular, that changes to the actual countdown much closer to launch. So the countdown that you see on the homepage, it's a bit of a fake, if you will. It's sort of like manually input into the homepage, whereas the one on the Flight 13 page is like the actual one. It's a bit of a trick that SpaceX does. Most people just go and look at the one on the homepage and don't care about the one dedicated to the Flight 13 page. And it does have the override. Yes, I know Neat Pizza is sort of correcting me in the background, that it does have the override to have that going from what it is right now to like the manual override and things like that. But point is, right now it's only just the text. Once it's usually updated, that's when it gets a bit more like once it starts running and the vehicles are out there and we are truly in day of launch, that's usually when it's a bit more reliable. I was explaining this on launch day where a lot of people saw the clock and they were trusting too much on it. The thing that you really need to trust is the first line on this page, which Jay was highlighting before, where it says yeah, the 13th flight test of Starship is preparing to launch as early as Monday, July 20th. The 90-minute launch window will open at 5:45 p.m. Central Time. Now, one of the things as well is that obviously for this to happen, we need the vehicles out there, and we've been talking about it for all the show. That one of the things is that the vehicles are not out there, and so will they have time to really hit this test window? We'll see, but I'm not too positive. That's my take. And yes, they have now one on the lawn at the Star Factory. I'm also not sure if that one is manual or if it's actually tied to the real countdown. It's a whole different kind of worms.
Yeah, and with that, J-Volt, CUAF, and for those of just tuning in, as of now, there are no road delays that have been published. So again, we're anxiously waiting to see if anything comes, but just keep refreshing. We'll, as soon as we know, we will let you know. And a quick one here also, kind of our previous topic from Alan Rose. Yeah, the shuttle was manned on the first launch. Yeah, oh my God, Young and Crippen. You talk about, again, go to the CLAD, missile men, the test pilots and stuff. That was incredible to think about that vehicle very first launch. I don't know, Max, you're probably not even. I don't know. You're even old enough to remember that one.
I wasn't around for that one, unfortunately. No, but I remember. I've talked to folks who were, and I've had the privilege of watching a whole bunch of footage from it. But yeah, STS-1 will forever be like one of the most intense and insane space missions ever launched.
Yeah, the landing was
Well,
almost. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
I was gonna say Demo 2 was also the 84th launch of Falcon 9. So yeah, when a vehicle starts
84th.
84th, yeah. And
Wow,
Atlas,
okay.
like if we go to Atlas, of course, with Mercury and Gemini, I think that was also like 20 something launches before they even carried, or even more than 20, in fact, before they carried any people on board. So yeah, if we go back to many other places, to many other rockets, you probably start seeing the trend that Apollo and Shuttle were sort of the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah, definitely. And then we saw what happened with Shuttle when they tried to push it too fast. Let's see what we got here. Texas Red saying, NSF, love to have this commentary show every day. Yeah, we would too. It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying being here with Alex and Max for this thing. But stay tuned. There's almost NSF is putting out like almost a daily show. We got Fridays. We got the Flame Trench on. Alicia's got shows on the weekend to keep you up to date, so you'll keep track of that. And stay tuned for that. And we got still in G123. I say SpaceX working HLS and Starbase. Could one of the be one of the rockets is transported to Florida? Yeah, we kind of touched on some of this before. That would definitely be one that goes to Florida. We are anxiously trying to find any kind of imaging that we can get through the windows. Again, we have such limited views in there. Maybe if SpaceX publishes another video, we'll see something in there. But we try to keep track as much as possible. It's just going to get worse with the Gigabay. We're not going to see parts rolling out. Maybe something in the window. We're not going to know until they open the doors and the rocket rolls out of there. And Max may will run this one your way. I got my thoughts on this, but it's like, okay, we're going to go to Flight 14 and we're going to go orbital. Let's say they're going to go for it. How many orbits before reentry? Here's my take on it. A single orbit doesn't make sense to me because of the plane change. Maybe you got the cross range for the ship and it can make it, and that's all well and good. But I believe it's around 6 orbits till the plane comes back over the launch site. I think they would go for more. I think they want to start getting more data on extended exposure of this vehicle to the space environment. What are your thoughts on orbital? How long, how many, and that sort of thing?
Well, just based on the hardware that's ready right now, they only have Tower 2 and Starbase that's ready to support launching and catching hardware. So if they want to use one tower, they need time to catch the booster, safe the booster, and then transport the booster away from the launch site. And that could be that's a multi-hour process, probably anywhere from 3 to 5 hours at the earliest. And in that time, depending on the orbital inclination that they launch in, and I presume that they're going to be following the same one from Flight 12 and 13, it could be anywhere from 6 to 10, maybe 11 orbits before the planes line back up again. It all depends. I mean, Starship as it is now is designed and capable of staying in orbit for up to 48 hours should they need that. My guess is they would target somewhere around the 24-hour mark or whatever gets them close to that before the orbits line back up, before the orbit lines back up again with a targeted reentry back to Pad 2. So my guess is around 24 hours. It won't be that quick, especially if they want to use one tower. If Tower 1 was available and the sticks were working, and they wanted to use it for catching ship or booster, depending on what they wanted, what vehicle they wanted to assign to each. Could be as little as 2 orbits, depending on ship's cross range capability and how far they want to push it. But that is not the case right now. Pad 1 is still far from being in terms of is far away from any sort of operational status. So my guess would be around 24 hours. And would they deploy a real payload? Probably a handful more Starlink version 3 satellites, depending on how Flight 13 goes, and if they deploy correctly, if they communicate with the shell, the existing Starlink shell, the ground, and all other parties. But ideally, yes. But if they lose control of those, they are then big pieces of space junk, and that is obviously something they want to avoid as much as possible.
Alex, what do you think? How many orbits do you think they would do on the first orbital attempt?
Probably at least a day, mostly to get rid of the booster of the launch mount and put it somewhere safe. Maybe they roll it out to the middle of the road and do it sort of like their own block of the launch site, because the launch site will need to be cleared for the return of the ship. Because otherwise, how are you going to be catching it, right?
Yep.
So we'll see. There's probably going to be some kind of evacuation, if I were to guess. Yeah.
Very good. We got Thomas Gunn. Thank you for the super chat here. What's really stopping them from rolling and stacking the same day? Doesn't take that long to roll and stack. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we saw the ship roll out, in short order. I guess the biggest question right now on this particular flight is the shape of Booster 20. Do they want to do some more on-pad testing with it? I think, yes, in a perfect world that when we're more in production site, yeah, roll, ship, and booster on the same day, stack and go is definitely going to be on the table here. We got one here from 80 km. I'm 45 years old. Do you guys think I'll be alive to land on humans? Well, yeah, I'm 29, and I'm certain I'll be alive to see that. So I think you're in really good shape on that. So don't worry about that. We got SCJDG. Again, let's put on our thinking caps. Let's get the crystal balls out, guys. Cargo variants of Starship. We've got the Pez dispenser for the flat packs, things like that. How are you going to get bigger payloads out of the ship? Shuttle doors, chompers. What's your thought?
Probably a variant of the payload bay doors that we found on shuttle. Probably a some variant of that. Probably not something as extreme as the Hungry Hippo fairings that Rocket Lab is going to be utilizing on Neutron, because that would interfere with the flaps and a whole bunch of other mechanisms in the nose cone. But probably a variant of the larger payload bay doors. Although we have not seen any hardware or renders of that beyond, I believe, 1 or 2 HLS renders are released with NASA. So we'll have to wait and see how that one goes. But again, we've seen no hardware for that or like light renders. So our guess on that front is pretty much as good as anybody else's.
You got any thoughts on that, Alex, as far as payload? I'm curious as far as how what the payload doors are going to look like on the lunar surface. You're going to have some sort of elevator, to bring the payloads down from the ship. But I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
They have released, at least for the cargo HLS variant, they have released concepts like renders and things like that. Those won't be until like maybe 5 or 6 years down the line. Like cargo HLS is at least not under contract until like 2031, 2032. So it's gonna be a while until those appear anywhere to to a star factory close to you or something like that, or whatever it's the sentence. But yeah, I mean, it will happen. It's definitely not. I will say what I always say. I wouldn't expect this right away. I wouldn't expect this like in a year or so. You're gonna have to wait a few more years until we see this kind of payload, payload, just because of their priorities. Priority number one, getting the ship up into orbit and being able to go through all of the different, Starlink deployments and things like that, get it operational so they can at least maybe start getting paid by itself. But that's sort of the
Yeah, I'm interested in, because they have the form factor for the Starlinks. And it's going to be stable. We've seen, real good ejection, mechanism for that. I love the bike chain on there. No, it's not bike chain, but it looks like it. With that, and they could maybe do like the data center things and various things to fit into that form factor. So I think they're going to have a lot of variability. I'm also interested on what was those hockey puck things coming down. I think those bode well. I'm running my brain as far as things you could put on those and get, if you could get them so they're safe to land on the ground, you could deploy, say, disaster relief stuff, anywhere in the world, like in 45 minutes. They're small
yeah.
enough that you could fit them on the back of a flatbed pickup truck. I'm kind of viewing those are the shipping containers of space. I don't know if you guys have thought anything about those or not.
It's also complicated to design very big doors because the structure itself, like on the fairing, for example, for Neutron, it was designed from the ground up to be like that. Whereas this, you're trying to design the door on another whole different structure, right? So you need to now adapt the old structure to the new function, and it's a weird thing in that sense. And so it's quite complicated. You already see when they fly the pest dispenser door, which is rather small compared to the size of the payload bay itself. The size of the door, it's nothing basically in comparison, but it's still quite reinforced. It's still you see all of the reinforcements, all of the different welds and everything that they need to do, because it's really complicated to design it such that it carries the loads, but also be able to open and everything, and then close again and seal, and it's not easy.
Max, looking down the road from where you are, we're looking at Booster 21 here on the
Yep.
screen. We saw some frost earlier. To be honest, I haven't been watching as closely. Maybe some of the chat knows more about it. But what's your thoughts? What have you been seeing on the testing of this vehicle?
Interestingly, I don't think we saw any more frost on it today than we did yesterday. I think obviously the light is changing. Obviously the sun is moving. So I'm struggling to see. Well, the frost is getting more tricky to spot because the side of the booster that's facing this camera is now in the shadows. But it looks like the frost line has gone down to where it was, or has dropped compared to where it was earlier. I don't think it was any more than we saw yesterday. Maybe my memory is off on that a bit, but another partial cryo that would be for booster, which is kind of interesting. I don't recall them doing multiple partial boosters or partial cryos on a booster like this before, especially with version 3, even though that we're still pretty early on in the version 3 program and they want to be as thorough as possible. But maybe they're either running into issues or they're planned partial cryo tests. But as far as we can tell now, the frost lines have dropped from where they were just a bit ago.
Yeah, again, interesting. Always interesting when something's out of Massey's to see what the process is as they go. And I'm still just amazed. There's a little rise when you go on Massey Road. You drive right by it and you can't see the other side of it. And I'm just amazed those SPMTs can get that thing up and over that without it tipping over. Also, I'll start with you, Max, as far as rovers on the moon. Years ago, I think it was even during one of the presidential inaugurations, they were doing that big parade where the president goes down the road from the Capitol to the White House. NASA had a pressurized rover. I think the concept was the EVA suits were actually docked to it, and there was like a chinning bar. So they would get up, astronauts would get up, the back end would open up like a door. They'd slide their feet in there, go in, close,
Yep.
and go out. But now we're seeing open air more like what we saw on the lunar rovers from the Apollo era.
Yep.
I don't know. You got any? What's your take on all those?
I mean, designing an open air transport system compared to something with a crew cabin that has to be pressurized and support life is a far more complex and energy intensive effort to design correctly and efficiently. So designing something simple and open air just to use in your spacesuit would save a lot of time and a lot of effort. It makes sense going forward, especially if you're trying to do something quickly. But that's not to say that a closed cabin sort of design will not be the way forward once we get to a certain point. I mean, obviously, once we have the base on the moon and on Mars, it is not necessarily efficient to have to suit up every single time you want to go somewhere. So, yeah, I mean, for now, it makes total sense, especially if you want to move fast, and especially with Axiom making the EVA suits for the Artemis program. I think that would add a lot more complexity and time to integrate those with a closed cabin system beyond what NASA has kind of already lightly designed and touched on in previous years before those programs and designs were canned. But if you want to move fast, I think this is the way forward, and for that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, let's see what the dust mitigation is on that, because that's just such a big issue on the lunar surface. One thing I'm really looking forward to is they get a shirt sleeve environment on the moon. Inside the habitat, we've all seen the classic Apollo, EVAs out there, and the astronauts doing the bunny hop and bouncing around. What's it going to be like inside the habitat? Can you walk at a normal pace in 1/6 gravity? Are you going to be doing a hopping? I'm curious what the motion is going to be. I don't know, Alex, if you get any thought of that. We've seen them float on the ISS, but what would the human motion be in a 1/6 environment in a shirt sleeve?
I'm probably just walking around normally. The hopping on the moonwalks or whatever during Apollo was down to just how non-flexible the whole suit was, that they basically had to do bunny hops around the surface of the moon because of that. The new suits will be able to actually be able to be flexible and have good joints for all that, so that they will be able to walk normally, and then inside of the pressurized rover or pressurized habitat or whatever they're going to be, then they can just walk around normally. On the lunar module on the Apollo, I don't think they were able to walk that much because it was very cramped, but I guess that will also will have been probably also normal for them, I would guess.
Yeah, look for that. That's always a pet peeve of mine watching shows like The Martian, The Expanse. You've got people in shirt sleeve environments. Mark Watney's in his habitat and he's walking around like he's in his house, and it's like, I'm sure that would be somewhat different, but it's Hollywood. They can't do stuff like that. I don't know, Alex, if you're up on Dream Chaser. We got Vulcan seems to be is grounded right now with the delays. You got any more information on what's happening with that program?
Oh, its biggest delays is not Vulcan, I should say to Josh here. The biggest delays with Dream Chaser is Dream Chaser. It's not ready to go at all. So it needs to still go through testing. It actually was sent back to, I think it's being built in Colorado. So it went back to Colorado. They've been doing some modifications there because it's not going to the ISS on its first flight anymore. It's doing a free flight test flight basically. And so it's undergoing some modifications and things like that to adapt to that. But yeah, the largest driver of delays for Dream Chaser is not Vulcan. That's it. Dream Chaser itself just put a stick on its own bicycle and said, "Oh my gosh, yeah." that's basically what's going on.
Oh God, Dream Chaser!
Oh no, Vulcan!
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, and Vulcan too. Oh dear.
Vulcan is fine for the purposes of Dream Chaser. Vulcan is probably fine. Probably gonna be ready well before Dream Chaser is ready for flight. But no, there's nothing new other than it went back to Colorado. That's all we know.
Yeah.
Okay. Max, we got Resistor Jets asking. Let's jump ahead maybe a year. Several Starship launches a week. Yeah, it must be a stretch, but anyway, once we start, let's go with we're going to have a Starship launch a week. We're getting to that point there.
Mhm.
What's the distribution? How many boosters do we and ships do we need? Hopefully we'll have more pads down in Florida. But what's your guess on distribution? How many we need each site?
Oh boy. Well, if they're launching every few days, it wouldn't hurt to have a fleet probably the size of Falcon 9 that they do currently in Florida, which is anywhere from I think it's around 15 boosters, just in case something either goes wrong or they find something, they find a hardware issue on a booster during a flight to just bring it back to Gigabay and have it swapped out or repaired and refurbished. But probably similar to what we see with Falcon 9 right now, if with that cadence, with a higher cadence that depends on really how reliable Super Heavy is long term and over multiple flights. For now, they haven't reflown a Super Heavy booster more than once, twice completely. Twice between its first flight and its second and final flight between boosters 14 and 15, but those were the old version 2 design. So probably similar to what we see with Falcon now, depending on the actual targeted cadence of what they have then. And they shouldn't need to expend any of them as far as we can tell. They're all going to be a return to launch site. Whether that be pad 39A or 37, we'll wait and find out. But if I had to put a number on it, it'd be somewhere around the realm of probably 10 to 15 for that cadence.
Very good. And with that, folks, and I'm sorry if my dog's barking here. She's been to 3 Starship launches. It doesn't bother her. Get a cat in the backyard and she goes nuts. Yeah. So anyway, Max, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for being on with us. Always a great insight.
It's a pleasure as always, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to hang out with us. And hopefully we get Starship off the ground here in a few days, because the clock is ticking for tomorrow and there's still no update really on SpaceX's front for the vehicles or the launch window. So keep your eyes peeled and we will bring that information to you as we see it.
Very good. And Alex, as always, thank you so much for being on today.
It's a pleasure as usual. And yeah, come on, SpaceX, we want updates. Are you still on track for tomorrow?
Yeah,
Are you
for
not?
real.
And if you're not, what's going to happen? When are we going to launch, right? That's sort of the big question that we need answers for. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Definitely. And thanks to Jay Keegan for
Yeah, do
producing
it
this.
again.
Yeah. And of socials. We got all kinds of NSF socials. We got Facebook. We got X. We got TikTok. We got Threads. Keep an eye on there. We are keeping a close eye on anything coming out of SpaceX, road delays, and any information we got. With that, thank you for joining us. My name is Roger Smith, and it's been a pleasure.
And here we go.
This is the final go, no-go poll for today's operations.
Full reusability of an engine like this is really something that people haven't done before.
We didn't know what we were doing because it was impossible to know what you were doing because no one had ever done something like this before.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, ignition.
Max Q. Separation.
One Raptor vacuum is off.
We lost the Raptor vacuum.
Ship FTS is safe.
Starship is turning for final approach to landing site.